Thanks for being here. This is Truthseekers with your host, Stephen Cambion. Please rate, like and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, put Truthseekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat room during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truthseekers. Truthseekers.
Galaxy, the alchemy of Jesus Christ, is that you will become like him. John 14:12. As I do these things, so shall you do them, and greater things. Cognitive abilities, psychic abilities, telepathy, seeing the future, all of these things are rolled in with that concept. So when we're looking at the possibility of liberating ourselves from the suffering, between 4 o'clock, let's go back to this one here. Between 4 o'clock, 4:30 and 8:30 in the morning yesterday was one of the worst days of my whole life. This was so crazy. This little guy starts exploding. This little guy starts exploding at the exact same time. This is on some kind of 20-year time bomb that it was from when the house was built. All these ancient prophecies telling us that the world will be transformed.
Wacky world of Wilcock, where make-believe is real. It's the wacky world of Wilcock. How much money can he steal? It's the wacky world of Wilcock, where make-believe is real. It's the wacky world of Wilcock. How much money can he steal? He makes all this stuff up and claims that it's all true. The aliens want to eat us. Be careful that they don't get you. It's the wacky world of Wilcock, where make-believe is real. It's the wacky world of Wilcock. How much money can you steal? It's the wacky world of Wilcock, where make-believe is real. It's the wacky world of Wilcock. How much money can you steal?
This is where if I have a live audience, I get everybody to hug each other. I say, give your neighbor a handshake or a hug, whatever you feel is appropriate to you. And that way everybody feels the love a little more. I will never believe it, I will never believe it. Okay, that's fine. Maybe you need 25,000 more years, I don't know, buddy. But look, this is really compelling information, and it's going to get a lot more intense. It's coming up in a couple days here on Sunday. So if you haven't already signed up, we have reopened the cart. We still have the payment plan in place. That account, I believe, is real. I've watched it for a long time, and he says a lot of really provocative stuff there that has definitely caught my attention on many, many occasions. I've heard this briefing many times. Incredibly, incredibly sad, but probably a lot more than just what it looks like on the surface. If you don't really see what's going on here, this might not make sense.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. Over the weekend, Mr. David Wilcock finally made a new live video, and my inbox was ringing all weekend. I got a chance to listen to this on the way home from my cabin in the mountains. And boy, I got to tell you, this is one of the most ridiculous ones of his videos I've ever heard. If you'd like to just get the quick version, I'm going to try to do a synopsis of his latest video in case you don't want to go through the entire video. I think it's 2.5 hours long. He wanted it to be an hour. But essentially, this is perhaps the most nonsensical thing that I have heard him do. And the big takeaway is that David Wilcock is desperate for money, claiming in this live stream that he is $1.4 million in debt, or that he and his ex-wife are $1.4 million in debt somehow. And therefore, he needs everybody to buy his latest $333 course so that he can get out of debt. And this really just makes me wonder, what is this guy doing with all of his money? Because just 2 years ago, according to court depositions, Mr. Wilcock made some $2 million from his last course. And throughout this entire broadcast of his, he keeps mentioning he owes all this money to taxes. So I'm left wondering, did he just not pay his taxes for years on end? And now he wants his followers to pay him $333 a pop so that he can get another big chunk of several $1 million, apparently, and pay his debts. We have detailed that Mr. Wilcock lives a rather extravagant millionaire's lifestyle. And we've also detailed how in his marketing material, he is straight lying to people. Well, maybe not lying to people, but being very, very misleading, claiming that he was trying to survive the winter in an uninsulated cabin in the mountains. Mr. Wilcock lives in a log cabin style mansion that is worth, I think I saw one estimate that it's worth $2 million. This is not a guy who's living in a little cabin in the woods trying to finish a writing project. And let us take a moment to discuss the test of a prophet, which is a biblical, it's really it's a biblical concept, which essentially says that if someone claims to be a prophet, or if someone claims that they are speaking for God or sacred or angelic entities, they cannot be wrong once. If they are wrong once, they do not pass the test of a prophet, and therefore they are not in communication with either God or angelic sacred entities. So I'm often left wondering how Mr. Wilcock is not aware of the test of a prophet, because he has now produced, I think he said, 7 books in this Archangel Michael series. And let's for a moment just explore the ridiculousness of a man who claims that he's in contact with the Archangel Michael, and that the Archangel Michael is telling him to urinate in his own bathtub and take baths in his own urine in order to get telekinetic superpowers. I am not even sure what to say about that, except to say that I think it's a ridiculous concept that any angel or archangel would contact a human being and tell them to take baths in their own piss to get superpowers. That alone means this man is no prophet. That alone means that this man is not in communication with any sort of angelic forces. Now, I can't quite prove that he's not in contact with the Archangel Michael, but then again, I can, using the biblical concept of the test of a prophet. You see, my friends, in book 1, which someone gifted to me, a very kind and generous benefactor here, bought the first book when he finished the first book and was just selling this is one book. I think they were $99. And by the way, it's $99, and perhaps I'm wrong on the pricing. So, but it's a PDF file. So what Mr. Wilcock is now selling apparently is 7 books that are PDFs, all about his supposed prophetic visions and prophetic channelings, which came directly, according to Mr. Wilcock, from the Archangel Michael. I beg to differ. And in fact, I have a real problem with someone claiming I'm getting secret and sacred information from angels. Give me $333 for this. Does it sound even plausible or possible that God's greatest angel in the form of Archangel Michael would give secret or sacred information solely to David Wilcock on planet Earth, and then apparently just be okay with David Wilcock charging everybody $333 for that secret or sacred angelic information? And if you think this is ridiculous, remember, in the last course that he sold, he claimed that he would be teaching everybody the secrets of free energy and anti-gravity. And if you just buy my course, you'll be able to do it too. So, I'm hoping that I will reach anybody on the fence about whether to give this clown another $333 for a bunch of nonsense. This man is a dealer in nonsense and misinformation, disinformation, false information that he claims is somehow valuable. David Wilcock's information has no value. And now he's going back to the same old grifts. He's talking about the mass arrests are coming. And by the way, he really screwed up in this last broadcast, because he essentially claimed that all of these things, the fall of the cabal, the mass arrests, all these things are going to take place in the next 2 weeks. So we're down to 13 days. I've already sort of, run a counter of my own. In 13 days, if we don't see mass arrests, civil upheaval, all kinds of drastic earth changes, then we'll know that David Wilcock is full of it once again. But let's take a moment to review. This man claimed he was Edgar Cayce reincarnated, but he refused to take the Edgar Cayce Foundation's test because Edgar Cayce knew that people would come along and pretend that they were him reincarnated. So they designed a test. He refused to take that test. To the best of my knowledge or recollection, Mr. Wilcock met with the president of that Edgar Cayce Foundation and a surviving family member of Edgar Cayce, and they both walked away saying he's not the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce, but that didn't stop him from profiting from it. If you believe that David Wilcock has secret or sacred angelic knowledge imparted to him, then here's something you should be aware of. David Wilcock has been wrong about all of his previous predictions. He is literally the worst psychic in the world that I've ever covered. I've investigated 100 or more psychics, or people that claim to channel, or people that claim to be, at least 100. He's the worst at being a fake psychic that I've ever encountered. Most other fake psychics, they learn things like cold reading or astrology, something that they can pretend has some kind of a value, and they'll get a few hits. David Wilcock has been wrong about everything. Let's just recount. He claimed he was Edgar Casey reincarnated. That turns out to be at least an unproven claim or completely and totally wrong. He claimed that in the year 2000, we would all get superpowers. Up to, he was claiming this while he was giving psychic readings before the year 2000. And this is all public record. You can go on archive.org or Wayback Machine and see all of his prophecies for the year 2000. They all failed miserably. But don't worry, then he brought the same kind of grift back in the year 2012 and for years leading up to the 2012 event, the Mayan calendar. David Wilcock claimed that we were all going to get rainbow light bodies. We were all going to get godlike superpowers. We would be able to telekinesis. We'd be able to move things with our mind. We'd all be able to levitate. We'd all be able to telepathically communicate to anyone, anywhere in the world. We'd have no need for cell phones anymore or anything like that. So he's wrong about being Edgar Casey. He was wrong about the year 2000, what would happen. He was wrong about the year 2012 and what would happen. Then he goes on to sell ascension courses, claiming that ascension was imminent. And I believe that he sold some three different courses, all for $333, in which you would learn how to survive the coming ascension. Nothing happened. Nothing ever happens, that David Wilcock says. And let's take a moment to recognize and understand that David Wilcock was a huge pusher of Q. All that turned out to be garbage, fake information. Then let's get to his fake government insiders. Now he's claiming Chris Beskar, a man who's got default judgments against him for running a Ponzi scheme, is now a government insider of his. And we'll get into that in a moment. His hover car company, remember, he said more than a year and a half ago, probably 2 years ago now, he claimed that within a year, they would have a working hover car prototype. Have we seen this? Where is it at? Where the hell is the goddamn hover cars he promised everybody? And according to David Wilcock, he's dumped millions of dollars into a company that has yet to produce a single project. They haven't made one airplane, but they're going to make anti-gravity hover cars with free energy engines because he's the director of exotic technologies there. And we've detailed for you before what let's just call them less than credible company this is. Because for 20 years, they've been pretending that they're going to produce all these super advanced aircraft. They haven't produced one. And we've detailed for you here. That company's only income comes from renting their airplane hangar out to a dumpster company. That's right, a garbage company pays them a few $1,000s a month to store dumpsters in their hangar. That is their only source of income, according to real court documents, which we've shared here previously. Add to that Stevati Aerospace was sued for running an investment scam and called a Ponzi scheme in court documents. And they lost default judgments against them. Essentially, I would assume, for being a Ponzi scam and an investment scam. This is the company that David Wilcock is claiming he's dumping all of his money into so that he can bring the world hover cars. It just goes on and on with this guy. And where's all his money? Where did he spend all that? Did he really give millions of dollars to some less than credible aerospace company that has been called an investment scam and a Ponzi scheme in court documents recently? And if so, why should even if he did, why should his followers have to all give him $333 to get him out of debt? He chose to give that money to a shady company. It's his fault. It just gets worse and worse. And he's complaining in this stream that he can't make the money that he used to. Oh, and let's also remember, he brought us all these fake whistleblowers and insiders. Pete Peterson, who he still cites to this day, claimed he worked for the Russian equivalent of NASA. He didn't. Claimed he worked for Ronald Reagan. He didn't. Claimed that he was an early computer pioneer. No, he wasn't. I have a background in computer science. We checked with multiple computer museums all around the world. Nobody ever heard of him or his fake company, by the way, called Cyberdyne Systems. Then David Wilcock later said that James Cameron and the people who made the Terminator movies ripped the Cyberdyne Systems off of his government insider. There was some very shady scams which he was involved in with Pete Peterson. They collected $60,000 claiming government agents were throwing all of his belongings into dumpsters and all this other stuff. It was a run-of-the-mill foreclosure. It had nothing to do with the Men in Black or government insiders. And in fact, he can't prove that Pete Peterson ever worked for the government. Everything in the text body of the GoFundMe was factually false. He wasn't a government insider. He wasn't a government whistleblower. You have to work for the government before you can call yourself a government whistleblower. Then you have to have some kind of actual information that you blow the whistle on, including evidence. He had nothing. He was some old senile scammer that was involved in, guess what? Investment scams, Ponzi schemes, and pump and dump stock scams. That's what Pete Peterson was really doing. Then we get to the Emery Smith scam. You remember that one where David Wilcock went on a popular paranormal radio show and claimed that Emery Smith was under deep state attack. People were leaving bullets, breaking in his house, leaving bullets on the counter, right? All that stuff. Well, it turns out that Emery Smith didn't get attacked by the deep state that night. He got attacked by several, I think, bottles of vodka, because those pictures of Emery Smith in the hospital, that was actually from when Emery Smith got hospitalized for alcohol poisoning. Everything about David Wilcock is all based on deception, lies, half-truths, false information, fake information, disinformation. It just goes on and on and on. And, I just get to the point where I've gotten to the point where nothing surprises me. What kind of a world do we live in when a man with this kind of proven track record of, let's just say, less than credible information is able to just make what does he do? Does everybody just forget about how wrong he's been about literally everything he's ever talked about so far? Oh, and I forgot to mention, he who shall not be named here anymore. David Wilcock pushed a completely and totally fake secret space insider for years and years and years, who later, pretty recently, admitted in court that he'd never been to space. That's another one of David Wilcock's insiders, a secret space program insider who told fantastic stories about space adventures and aliens for 8 years, then admitted under oath he'd never even been to space. This is David Wilcock's legacy, a legacy of lies, half-truths, misinformation, disinformation, false information, fake whistleblowers, fake insiders. Oh, but don't worry, he's still getting intel. And I suppose one of the reasons I'm getting angry is because he has now used my faith and my religion in this latest one, bringing in the Archangel Michael. And I got to tell you, according to the test of a prophet, if that information is wrong one time, you're not in communication with God. You're not in communication with sacred or the angelic. Maybe you're being deceived and is in communication. I don't think he's in communication with anything. I think he's making this stuff up. That's my personal opinion and speculation based on how much David Wilcock has just made up, apparently or allegedly, over the years. But it's important to note, I mentioned that secret space insider. Did you know that in the very first book, David Wilcock fails the test of a prophet? Because in the very first book, according to the Archangel Michael, his secret space program insiders' information was all very accurate. And just 2 weeks, I believe, to the best of my knowledge and recollection, just a few weeks, we'll leave it at that, just a few weeks after David Wilcock publishes this first book of lies he claims is being channeled to him by the Archangel Michael, just a few weeks, then comes the stunning revelations from the secret space program insider that he made up a lot of those stories. And he'd never actually been to space. And he'd never actually been to the moon. He'd never actually been to Mars. And those inner Earth people he claimed to be in communication with, they weren't real physical beings. Those were his spirit guides that he talks to when he meditates. And they came from him. In other words, he made them up. So right off the bat, what we have is a failure of the test of the prophet. The Archangel Michael would not tell somebody wrong information, according to biblical scripture and biblical sources. If somebody claims, hey, I'm in communication with angelic forces, and their information is incorrect, even once, that is not an angelic entity. And that, more than anything else, should inform people not to give David Wilcock $333. Ooh, pardon me. $333 worth of, money for his nonsense information. It's not coming from angels. Go talk to any theologian. What I'm saying is completely and totally accurate as far as, look it up. It's called the test of a prophet. If that so-called God source or angelic source is wrong in information even one time, that's not an angelic source. We can already clearly establish that the information that he presented in book 1 is factually wrong. It's completely wrong. Why would an angel tell David Wilcock, oh, that secret space program insider you had, his information was very, very accurate, if he was making it up? You see the problem here? But unfortunately, I think that people don't dig deeper. And also, people's memories are short. They forget the history I have just recounted to you about just how many times David Wilcock has been caught pushing completely and totally wrong information. What about the mass arrests? What about the 3 days of darkness? Remember that? We were supposed to have 3 days of darkness in the next couple of weeks or month. And none of that happened. None of that happened. Why would an angel talk to a guy who's been pushing fake information his entire career for 20 or more years? Why would an angel pick David Wilcock, who claimed to be Edgar Casey, who claims he has government insiders and is literally just pushing stories from liars, allegedly? And hey, before you give him any money, ask him where the $70,000 to $100,000 he collected for his charity went. Where did that money go? Well, we were able to track and verify that some of that money was used very wastefully. What was it? He spent between $4,000 and $5,000 of that money on meals and entertainment. Because I don't know about you, when I give money to charity, right? That's what I want them doing with the money, spending $4,000 to $5,000 on meals and entertainment. And by the way, these are all publicly available records. They're called 990 forms. When you have a charity, you have to file a 990 form every year and show everybody, here's how much money we collected and here's what we did with it. Do you know what they did with it? They gave just a few $1,000s of, I believe, last I checked, somewhere between $70,000 and $100,000 he collected. They gave a few $1,000s to another charity. And the rest, David Wilcock spent on himself, which is very problematic because if he's buying software and webcams and this multicam setup he's so proud of, by the way, I have a multicam setup that only costs a few $100. It doesn't cost thousands of dollars, but whatever. Listen, did David, and by the way, I'm just asking a question here, but did David Wilcock spend money from charitable donations on software and equipment that he is now using for his for-profit company? Shouldn't he have to give that money back or pay that money back to the charity? You can't buy, if you have a charity, you can't just spend all the money on yourself and then have a for-profit company that's also using the supplies, the equipment. He claimed he spent thousands and thousands of dollars on supplies, computers, equipment, software. It's amazing to me. And the greed is what gets me. Like, You made $2 million on your last course that was based on nonsense. And by the way, who was his insider for his last course? Chris Beskar, the CEO of that shady aerospace company that just lost default judgments for being an investment scam and a Ponzi scheme. That's who his close associate is. And by the way, in that course, you better be able to prove this shit, David Wilcock, because in his last course, he claimed that Chris Beskar made spaceships for the secret space program for the United States government. And he took $333 from people while claiming that. That's going to be a problem for you, Mr. Wilcock, going forward. You better be able to prove that that guy who's never even been able to produce a single airplane in 20 plus years built goddamn spaceships. Sorry, I'm getting a little upset. I'm tired of seeing, like how much more money does this guy have to take from people before people finally wise up? He sold you secret space nonsense stories for what, 8 years? And then the guy testifies in court that he made it up. He's never been to space. That's what he sold everybody for 8 years. Lies. How many millions of dollars did he make selling those lies? Because then there's 2 documentary deals with that guy, and they made hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And by the way, that's based on court testimony. Then we have court testimony that David Wilcock made $2 million on his last course, claiming that he would teach everybody the secrets of free energy and anti-gravity. And if you take my course, you'll be able to do it too. Where's everybody building these free energy devices, David Wilcock? Where's everybody building these anti-gravity machines? I haven't seen any. Have you? And meanwhile, he's telling people, take my $333 course and you'll be able to do free energy and anti-gravity. And then he can't do it himself. It's like taking, swim lessons from somebody that can't swim. It makes no sense. But this is the wacky world of Wilcock. It doesn't have to make sense. It's just the wacky world of Wilcock. And now, my friends, how do you rack up $1.4 million in debt? Especially if 2 years ago you were given $2 million. Wouldn't you still have $600,000 left? He claims he's broke. So we're going to get into his latest video. I don't know how much of it we're going to make it through, but we want to take a moment to recognize the live chat and all the live chatters, whether you're chatting on Rumble, in our Facebook lives, over there on Twitter or on YouTube, Twitch, or of course, pill.net. We see and recognize all of you. So we thank all of you for joining us. I'm going to put my fair use banner up, and we're going to see how much of this we can get through. And by the way, people still want me to cover the other hour of his recent interview with Danica Patrick, because apparently he said some wacky shit in that too. Oh, and I said I was going to give a synopsis. So if you just want the quick version, David Wilcock is connecting all kinds of disconnected shit and events to his Michael prophecy books, he's literally claiming that angels and aliens are making crop circles to sort of coincide with his book release, right? Like he's so important. He's so important that aliens from millions of miles away, light years, they've traveled light years to get to Earth so the release of his new series of books full of lies. And it's just wonderful. So this is fair use. This is a transformative work. By the way, I have forgotten to put the link to his original video. You could just search David Wilcock on YouTube and find it. It is the latest video. It is titled October 14th, Eclipse Global Peace Meditation. Let's use the technology of love. Okay, we're going to get into it, friends. Oh, no, but before we do, boy, I don't even know how to say this one. Some people know or are aware that we've been having problems lately with people expecting me to answer for the actions of other people, whether it be a guest or somebody that once worked for me or whatever, and I'm not doing it. So if anybody wants to ask me about some copyright claim situation, I don't know. I didn't copyright claim anything. I did not. And by the way, in the same video, there was clips of my show, but it was fair use. So I did not and would not ever copyright claim them. And by the way, I believe every clip in that video was fair use. But I didn't copyright claim anybody. And the person involved with who did doesn't work for me anymore. So I would appreciate it if you have questions. I'm not answering for anybody else. This goes for everything going forward. Now, certainly, if if some guest says something incredibly objectionable, like this situation we had, sure, I'll comment on that. But I'm not answering for the actions of anybody else. And by the way, I'm not either condemning or condoning what they did. I have nothing to say about it. I didn't copyright claim anybody. Ask those people what they did and why they did it. I'm not talking about it. All right, we got that out of the way. So just so everybody's aware, I have a hard enough time answering for my own actions. I will not be, called on the carpet for the actions of other people. And again, I don't support or condemn what happened in that situation. It's not my place. I didn't do it. Go talk to them. All right, we're good. All right. So this is the solar eclipse global peace meditation. Very woo.
All right, we're live. How you guys doing? It's David Wilcock, and welcome to the show. This is the solar eclipse global peace meditation. I hope you are doing well. Hopefully you can hear me and you can see me and everything's okay. So just please, somebody let me know in the comments.
This guy's got like $20,000 worth of studio gear, and he doesn't know how to put up a monitor to know if his stream is actually working. It's kind of ridiculous. How do you have that much in equipment and not know what a monitor is? Right? And by the way, I have a laptop here for that purpose, but whatever. He's a guy with a 180 IQ, remember, too. He's smarter than Einstein, but he can't work a live stream.
That the show is doing okay. You can see it, you can hear it, and everything's fine. Anybody? Bueller. It is like a 30-second delay or something like that. So then
Rose, Randy.
I got to wait a while. Everybody seems to be, okay, there you are. Okay, you got it. Great. All right. So, I've been...
Yeah, I'm going to comment on that, Foxy.
For that. Oh, my life has been very, very intense. And I'm sure yours has been too, because we're going through some very intense stuff. And this is not a time...
And no, friends, his life has not been intense. In fact, his life has been so boring for the past 2 years. He hasn't done a live stream in 2 years. And in this live stream, he talks for an hour about some rude woman where he goes to fill up jugs of spring water where he lives because some woman was rude to him. And he talks about that for an hour. If you were in contact with the Archangel Michael, don't you think you'd have more important things to do than to cry and complain that somebody was rude to you in line at a fill up for free spring water? He spent an hour on it or something like that. And we'll get to that.
To ignore that or act like it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. It actually is a very big deal. And I'm as aware of that as anyone. I've been working tirelessly for 2 years, starting at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, and that's another issue. He really thinks that he works super hard. The guy hasn't done a public appearance or a live stream for 2 years, up until last week. So just imagine, whatever you do, whether you're a roofer, carpenter, cashier, whatever you do, just imagine he took off from working for 2 years, and he's going to complain that he's worked so hard on these books, which, by the way, the first one proves that he's not in communication with any angelic forces. If anything, he could be in contact with the demonic force masquerading as an angelic force, and there is some scriptural and evidence that is something that has taken place. Demons love to pretend that there's something they're not, right? And what's more likely, that an angel would communicate with this man who has spent decades deceiving people, or that a demon would?
On a very exciting project, which we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, and
So
this whole thing is
with
just a pitch. This whole thing is just a begging pitch to buy his book, buy his books and his new course, because he's so deep in debt.
The basis of what I do before, then you know that I'm into spirituality, metaphysics, and I believe in a higher concept, a higher principle. And that higher principle has to do with angelic extraterrestrial life.
And now he is conflating an angel and an alien as the same thing.
I found out about extraterrestrial life quite a while ago. I remember reading books when I was 5, 6 years old and becoming very fascinated when I read the book Strange Stories, Amazing Facts, and I saw...
He loves to quote books he's read too. Like, I'm smart, I read a book.
UFOs in the book. And I said, what in the world? If these are really coming here, and the book made me believe that they were, then why don't we hear about this? And why don't we know anything about this? So the answer is that we are not free. We have been under control, and there are forces that very much don't want you to know about the benevolent, angelic, higher ETs. I encountered this when I went out into showbiz. Yeah,
he's in showbiz. He's a D-level celebrity, if that. This is the old the aliens are going to save us. The Space Brothers grift. That's what he's doing here. And this appeals to people who feel marginalized, people who feel oppressed, people who feel that life is unfair. Yeah, life is unfair, but don't worry, because the angelic extraterrestrials are going to come here and save us all.
There was one subject that I was not allowed to talk about on television, and that was the idea of angels, the idea that human-looking beings could exist who have an angelic consciousness.
Yeah. They let him talk about all kinds of wacky nonsense. Who wouldn't let you talk about this? This is just, oh, this information is so important. This is a layer of deception that he's going to use to sell the grift.
So how's everybody doing?
Alleged grift.
Read some of your comments here. Somebody says, David, we've missed you. Lovely to see you again. Here you can see me from the back as I read the comments.
Oh, yeah. He set up a special camera angle so that you could see him from the back while he, like, this guy's ego is something else. And here's another thing. David Wilcock lost whoever was working for him. I don't know if it was his wife or somebody else that worked for him that would carefully curate the live chat comments and delete all the negative comments. I looked at this live. He was getting hammered. For the whole time he was on, people were calling him not so kind things. You know, people were bringing up all his past failed prophecies. Why should we believe you now? People were attacking him, attacking his appearance for the entire length of this thing. It was something to see, because used to be that they had an echo chamber over there and they would just delete any negative comments. But I guess he is all alone. His wife left him or whatever. And by the way, that's a sad thing. So, you know, I feel for him for that, but he lost the echo chamber, and now he's going to have to hear what people really think and see it. And he brought up, he even talked about some of these attacks that were going on in the live chat during this. It was something to see. It was a real change from previous broadcasts.
David looks good. I like his hair. Shut up, the person who says he looks like a mess. Okay, well, honestly, I really don't care what people think about my hair. This is kind of a manifestation of depression.
Okay, so he's depressed now because he's $1.4 million in debt. So he's depressed. I don't know. I've been depressed in my life. My hair looked the same when I was depressed than when I wasn't depressed. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. I don't know.
You know, I am depressed. And so when you're depressed, your hair gets funky. So instead of judging me about it, why don't you just spread the love? You know, this is the way I choose to identify right now. And I really don't mind if
This is how he chooses to identify.
it doesn't look good to you. I'm sorry if that's the way you feel, but I really don't care. Anyway, okay, we got that one done. Bring us Colin McGazer, mate. I want to hear Colin. All right, buddy, well, get your Colin. We got to have some fun. We all freaking missed you. Can we talk about cryptids and why they are around? Is this part of the Mandela? We can talk about cryptids, I guess. Congratulations. Thank you for good content. Greetings from Colombia, your friend Fabian Sanchez. Michael Prophecies are a super read. Thanks so much. We missed you. Every time I think of you, here you are.
Yeah, and I am just blown away with how stupid the people that are big fans of this guy must be. Like, do you not know that he's been pushing false, fake information and disinformation for decades?
Well, that's good. Your hair is fine, brother. 100% authentic. We're glad you're here. We have 3 devices. Your hair is fine. I like your spacesuit. Love vibrations to you. Great you're online. What do you think about the Nazca mummies? I think they're fake. Did I actually say that out loud?
That's the first time I've ever heard him say anything was fake. He believes in the original contactees were really talking to aliens.
I've died twice. My heart stopped. The second time I was healed by angels or Elohim. I came back and soon found David. That's from Grumpa. You're a good person, bro. You surprise me with different types of music. You even like KRS-One. That's true. Where's your prop cigarette? I got rid of the cigarettes. I should have brought them out. Honestly, folks, it's been so long since I did this that, there were problems with the set just now when I was getting started. Get this blue light behind
now we get to the technical difficulties. He's like I said, every stream he does, he'll talk about the sets and the lighting and his pants for like 15 minutes. Every stream, right?
Work to get these.
And why is he having problems with getting technical things to work? He has a 180 IQ, according to him, which would make him smarter than Einstein.
Blue lights over here. The one behind me, that one was working, but then like this one, like the one behind my head here, that didn't work. So it's just been crazy, okay? It's been crazy. I haven't really been that happy. Writing books for happy. 2 years really sucks. And I felt it.
Yeah. Hanging out in a multi-million-dollar mansion every day, not going to work, but having to write some make some PDF files about angels talking to him and him having superpowers. He's had such a hard 2 years. You know what I would love to see? And maybe that's because I think it would teach him a lesson. Anybody ever do roofing work? I would love to see David Wilcock up on a hot roof in the middle of August in Philadelphia, carrying bales of rolled roofing up a 40-foot ladder all day for 2 years. His life is so difficult. He's got spoiled rich kid syndrome.
Extraordinary sense of urgency. I'd get up at 4:30 in the morning, and that's all I was doing. So there's an interesting thing about this type of art, the type of art that you're seeing me perform now, in the sense that
big camera angle. Look at the back of my head.
It's of the moment. It doesn't require really that much preparation, you would think. But actually, I've been meditating all day since yesterday. See, that's another thing I hate. I hate that when the light is on that thing. See that? I hate that. And it was supposed to be fixed, but now it's not fixed. Okay, fair enough.
Well, maybe you should fix that stuff before you live stream.
There's an enormity of complexity when it comes to trying to make a complex multi-camera angle shoot like this. And
no, by the way, I am qualified to talk on this. It's not that complicated. You have your multicam set up and you have different switches or whatever to set the different, what camera you're on. It's not that complicated. It's just not that complicated. It's not that complicated. Why? I don't have a 180 IQ. Why can I make this work? Why can I make mine work so simple and so easily? But he's going to tell you that his is so incredibly complicated. No, it's not. It's not complicated. You got to switch to change cameras. That's how complicated it is. I don't know. Maybe he's got 8 switches because he's got to have like 8. I don't know.
Have each shot look good and have it be, you know, in the right place, in the right way, at the right time. I mean, this is camera 7. This is the new one. I got a new camera.
Oh, now he's got 7 cameras.
It's been very difficult. You guys know what my content is. I've talked about it for a long time.
He needs 7 cameras.
And now we've got a very serious situation. We've got war escalating in Israel.
Yeah, let's grift off of that human tragedy.
You think that this is all going to wait until the 2024 election in November of 2024? I do not agree. And to think that wars will neatly fall in line with the election timeline, I don't think so. In fact, I am expecting that you might see very, very significant changes even before the end of the year. And part of the reason why I say
that means nothing's going to happen because he's been wrong about everything.
That is because of this. Let's go to this for a second. This particular formation appeared in...
Now he's going to bring in a whole bunch of disconnected nonsense that has nothing to do with his... Does that have anything to do with the Archangel Michael? He's going to tell you that it does. He's going to tell you that this is directly... It has something directly to do with his new books that he's selling somehow.
In Italy, on May 30th of this year, and you can see it there next to the beautiful house. And here it is with some cars in front of it, another house, the same house, I think, maybe a different one, but off to the right there. And then here it is again from farther away. Now, this crop circle was deciphered. You can see it was near Casina del Colle in Brescia.
It was not deciphered. It was interpreted. Or the artist who created it did this on purpose because of the coming solar eclipse. But he's going to tell you this was made by angelic aliens.
Italy. Now, I guess first of all, I'll tell you that my opinion is that these are not fake. These are not made by humans, or at least not regular humans, and they're not made with any type of conventional technology.
Does he have any evidence of that? Because I've seen people make these things with a board and 2 ropes.
Crop circles appear to be created by some type of strange process that manipulates every single grain individually.
Show me the scientific studies of that. He can't and he won't.
And when we see the actual crop circles, when we go there and we look at them, we find out, you know, they've got bending growth nodes right where one growth node appears. It looks kind of like a ball along the stalk. It will bend, but only there. The stalks themselves are not broken. It's only that they bend at the growth nodes.
Or maybe the people making the crop circles just push them down with boards at the growth node.
And then they keep growing after they've been treated this way. So the crops are alive.
Yeah, go knock a bunch of wheat or corn down. It will continue to grow and try to live. Life tries to find a way.
They're harvestable. You can still eat the wheat and everything's cool. So when we think about this in terms of, you know, why would somebody want to make these crop formations?
Yeah, only superhumans can make crop circles.
To me, it's pretty straightforward. We are seeing a higher intelligence that is communicating to us through the use of symbology. And so in this case, what we're seeing is that there is what looks like a stylized eclipse.
I don't want to hear about your node reso factor.
Illustration on the left here, yeah, it does look like what you see on the right, which is these typical illustrations of eclipses. And so, sure enough, there's an eclipse coming, as it says here, on October 14th, 2023, which is now disturbingly close to the present. If you read the Michael prophecies, if you read these books,
now he's going to connect this nonsense to his nonsense.
Mention of this in the book, this particular crop circle. I believe it's in book 6, maybe 7. But also, there is a whole new way of looking at this in light of what just happened with this thing with Israel. So here we've got this solar eclipse coming up.
Talk about connecting the dots.
Of course, eclipses
He's just connecting a bunch of disconnected nonsense.
Eclipses are directly correlated with things like the fall of kings, the overthrow of existing rulerships, very, very dynamic, electrical, unpredictable changes.
No, eclipses have happened all throughout human history, And different cultures have different beliefs about what an eclipse means. Certainly, prehistoric man and ancient man has looked at an eclipse and thought that it had some significance to their lives, their culture. There is no worldwide human consensus on what an eclipse means. He's just going to connect a bunch of disconnected dots to sell his books.
And even just as I'm going to tape here, and the last thing I read online before I started taping is, Iran is going to support the Palestinians, which basically means now you got Iran against Israel, which starts to sound like a bigger war, and it's going to escalate and escalate. Now, if we lived in an acausal universe where our thoughts did not...
And by the way, the fact that this man is so willing to jump right in and use a terrible human tragedy like a war to help sell his nonsense shows you how immoral and unethical he is, in my opinion. You know, can you just let those people rest in peace and not use that tragedy to sell your nonsense?
Directly
Apparently
reality,
not.
that might be true, but we do live in a causal universe. We do have a direct cause and effect relationship between our thoughts and between the manifestations of reality that we then encounter. And so understanding this is a key.
Word salad
insanity,
nonsense.
because once you begin realizing the degree to which you live in a spiritual universe, you no longer have to suffer within it. Suffering is actually something that in Buddhism they call Maya, the Mayic delusion. It's also called samsara. And suffering is not necessary. There is an elixir of consciousness that opens to those who seek the universal mind through meditation.
Oh, see, if you're suffering, all you have to do is meditate, and that'll solve all your problems.
And that is what I am proposing that we are going to do today. So when I see this very scary crop circle, and then all of a sudden...
Oh, it's so scary.
Yeah,
is that scary to anybody in the live chat?
Big
it's not scary to me.
October 14th.
Just a circle in a circle.
It's a very, very stunning event. And in fact, let me go ahead to another slide here that I have and show you a couple of the other crop circles that have been going on this year. This is something worth...
Yeah, and just to take a moment to recognize that David Wilcock is essentially trying to claim that these crop circles have something to do with his books that were dictated to him by the Archangel Michael. Why would angels come down to earth and just put random geometric patterns or artistic geometric patterns into crops?
Discussing, so let's do that. So this was the first one that we saw this year, and because of a variety of reasons, this does look like fan blades like you would see for a drone or something like that.
No, it doesn't.
It also looks like stylized
looks
swords.
like a flower.
And so I have interpreted this dream.
Oh, he's interpreted this dream. He's calling it a dream. He's confusing it with his other bowl.
This as if it was a dream in the book. And I believe it is related to Archangel Michael, the sword of Archangel Michael. And there's a lot of thematic crop circles this year about things that I'm working on, like aerospace. And again, wait a minute, David, are you saying that the crop circle makers are building things based on your ideas? Well, it does look that way.
It looks that way. And I'm here to tell you that crop circle formation has zero. It has no relation whatsoever to the sword of Archangel Michael. Go look up Archangel Michael. Look at that. It looks like a flower. It doesn't look like fan blades. It doesn't look like a sword of an angel. It's a flower, David Wilcock. But I guess a crop circle of a flower isn't going to help you sell any books. So we have to, and look at the arrogance of this man. He's claiming that extraterrestrials are making crop circles just to connect in with his books somehow. How is that even, the ego on this guy? Okay, so aliens came from vast different star systems to make crop circles to help him sell his book. And also, you got to remember that the book came from the Archangel. So he's got angels and aliens helping him to sell his books, right? But he can't provide any proof of anything. So that's a little suspicious. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say no angels and no aliens are involved in his crappy books full of nonsense.
When you understand what happened with Michael prophecies, we'll get into that a little later. I mean, these higher beings have kept me. I mean, I literally am over $1 million in debt. I've been over $1 million in debt for 2 years. It's very frightening to be this much in debt. It's very.
How is he over $1 million in debt for 2 years when 2 years ago he sold a course that, according to court documents, he got $2 million for? How can you be $1 million in debt, David Wilcock? What did you do with all that money?
Very frightening to not even be able to pay your tax payment. I mean, I've been able to pay my tax installments, but I'm on installment plans, and some of them last a long time.
He's on installment plans to pay his taxes. And, you know, here's something else that I'm qualified to comment on. You know, I'm a business owner. And one thing that I am aware of or sure of is you got to pay your taxes, and you have to pay them on time. The only reason I'm going to have to speculate here that he's on a payment plan or something is because he didn't pay his due taxes in the years they were due. And so now he's in the rears. And we reported here previously at one time, David Wilcock had something like, I think it was a $70,000 tax lien on him. I don't know if he paid that off, but the only way you get millions of dollars into tax debt is if you don't pay millions of dollars of your income taxes.
And so this has been very difficult. You know, it was not a profitable thing that I've been doing.
It wasn't a profitable thing that he's been doing, but now it's going to be, because now he's finished the courses and he's going to cash in,
to put it mildly. So let's talk about another one that was very, very shocking, folks. So on the left, what you see here is a classic formation from 1999. It was the grand finale around, you know, August 11th, August 13th.
Now he's into something from 1999.
This was what they called the wicker basket. Now, if you look at it there on the left, you can see.
So would the aliens go back in time to 1999 and leave that crop circle there to help him sell his book in 2023? Don't worry, logic has no place in the wacky world of Wilcock.
That there's some very interesting cross-hatching in between these patterns of interconnecting circles. Now, the cross-hatching actually looks like wicker.
Good point.
And what was really bizarre was that in 1999, Archangel Michael is speaking to me telepathically, okay? And he said there's going to be a formation coming up.
Yeah, maybe he shouldn't have bought a seventh camera. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
That will illustrate what I'm talking about.
If you're $1.4 million in debt, maybe you shouldn't be buying expensive camera equipment. I mean, I'm just putting it out there as a possibility. Like, one way to get out of debt is to watch your expenses and don't spend money unnecessarily. Like, imagine that. Well, listen, I know I'm $1.4 million in debt, but I've only got 6 camera angles and I need 7, right? So I'm going to buy a new camera instead of putting that money towards paying down my debts. And now all of his joking about being a deadbeat dad kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
And in the dream that was before this formation showed up, there was a wicker basket.
He's dialed in now, yeah. Now he's going to bring up some movie.
Shows up in my dream.
A Wicker Man.
The wicker basket shows up in a crop circle, and Michael tells me that he's going to do something related to the dream before it actually appeared. So it's kind of hard to say that this.
Good point, Chester X, and thanks for being a member.
I didn't even discover it until I was back into this and doing this book last year.
Could be B. Baker.
So what was so bizarre to me, again, going back here, is that in this particular instance, we see.
I don't know why it's freezing. It's okay on my end there, Archaic Revival.
Ordering it on the.
Oh, sorry about that. Let me go back. Sorry, I was trying. People are saying that the stream is freezing on them, so I was trying to close down anything unnecessary. I didn't mean to close that window. 1 second, we'll get it back. Here we go. And I'll close down everything else. How about that?
Discover it until I was back into this and doing this book.
Yeah, so essentially he's claiming that aliens are leaving crop circles that are connected to his books.
Last year. Actually, it was this year. So what was so bizarre to me, again, going back here, is that in this particular instance, we see, after I, have a few thousand people read these books, the people who have been ordering it, on the right here, we see what happened this year. That was...
So in order to believe David Wilcock, then, we have to believe that in 1999, aliens made crop circles just for him to support the important work he was doing in 1999. And then just this year, they left him another crop circle to support him selling books from the Archangel Michael. This is so stupid.
This year's crop formation. And so this year's crop formation has a bunch of circles that looks very similar to what we see before. The stylistic similarities are absolutely undeniable. We have a series of circles that are all in a radial pattern. In this image on the left, we have 7 radius patterns, 7 groups of circles all together. And then on the one on the right here, we only have 6, which is more like your typical snowflake. However, apart from the number of spokes, the actual formation of circles is the same. As you look at them,
Is that the same to you? That is not the same. He's saying this is the same. It is not the same. It's a completely different pattern. But okay, David Wilcock.
The idea of working with a hover car. In other words, you look at these fan blades, they're not lifting by air.
These aren't random geometric patterns. These are hover car fan blades that are emitting energy. Like, how big is his ego? He thinks aliens are coming here to support his hover car plans and making crop circles. Could you imagine the aliens, right? Like, man, we had a really long journey. We got to get on this shit. Get out there in that crop circle. David Wilcock needs to sell some goddamn books, man. We got to help David Wilcock. Let's make some crop circles to help David Wilcock sell some books.
Or spinning. They're actually resonating some type of radiant essence. And
how dumb are his followers?
Too. This was printed right next to a land mound. What you see right next to the image here is on the left is a mound. And the mound is actually something that was built by, the indigenous Europeans, the Celtics, as an energetic harnessing source. So isn't it ironic that they put this formation right next to the mound? Because the mound actually, if you understand pyramid science, it works as a passive energetic generator. And so that's what I believe this formation was showing us.
This formation was showing a passive energy generator. In other words, a free energy device, like he claims is going to power his hover cars.
Again, in light of the fact that Michael Prophecies came out, it was curiously thematically similar to me. I go into way more detail about it in the book.
So literally, he's saying that aliens are coming here to planet Earth and making crop circles to connect to his books so that he could sell books. This guy is something else. Angels and aliens are helping him sell his new book.
This one here.
Books.
And in this case, what we see is a very clear illustration of a radar. So this is another one of the images that came out this year.
No, these things are open to interpretation. This could be anything. It could literally be anything. This one could be anything. It could literally be anything. Oh no, that's hover car parts. The aliens are showing me hover car parts. Nonsense. And by the way, all of these crop circles are open to interpretation. Show that image. It's like a Rorschach test. Show that image to 10 different people and ask them what it is. You'll get 10 different answers. But to David Wilcock, this is the aliens confirming his nonsense.
It is occurring in our solar system, which is something I've talked about many times. You notice that it looks like there's petals around the sun.
It's a flower.
Flowering. Well, yeah, this is
it could be a sunflower.
The idea that
dummy.
The sun is the author of organic life. We are part of a spiritual reality, and these higher beings are trying to tell us this. Now, this was not the first time that I had crop circles answer me in
I'd
terms
like
of
to
something
see
that I'm
you.
doing
I
as
would
a
love.
very
I would
public
love
figure.
for alien scientists to make David Wilcock go to work with him, cutting and placing tiles and grouting all day, right? This guy's never had a blue collar job, alien scientist. That's his problem. You know, I painted houses. I tried roofing. I was terrible at the roofing. I did better with the painting the houses. This guy always crying and complaining that he's working so hard. He's never had a real job where you have to work for a living. Not that I'm. Oh no, he did. He worked in a mental institution for a little while after he got out of college, but he cried and complained that he wasn't making enough money doing that. So he went on to, selling people fake psychic readings and claiming to be Edgar Casey reincarnated and all these other grifts
In the world. So when I was working on an article for Richard C. Hoagland, I was designing his cover art for him. This was my design in Photoshop, and you can see here I took the man on the moon who's crying. I put him up in the top right. I took a picture of Von Braun.
Yeah, I've had a lot
I
of
added
jobs
the text
too.
over it, and then I also did a multi-dimensional thing with this figure 8, where I put it behind his head, so it has dimensionality. It's behind his head, but it's in front of his hand. So that gives an illusion of depth. That's a typical,
Now he's going to talk about what a great visual effects artist
to make
he
something
is.
look more cool. So I was working on this design. I was really happy with it, and then the very next day, they come out with this crop circle.
Oh, must be the aliens.
There's some pretty.
David Wilcock made a special graphic for Richard C. Hoagland. So the aliens came all the way to Earth to make a special crop circle to celebrate his graphic success.
Astonishing similarities between the way the figure 8 here looks, and even notice that the width of the one that goes behind his head is wider than the one above his head in terms of the two sides of the 8, and that's the same thing we see here. So this happened in 2000.
Wow, stunning. The aliens are making crop circles just for David Wilcock.
This was the classic 888 crop circle because it appeared on 888 as far as a date. That was August 8th, 2008. So I was really shocked when the crop circle makers seemed to have responded to what I was doing with Richard C. Hoagland's article.
Aliens are coming millions of miles, light years in distance. They're traveling to Earth to make crop circles that correspond with David Wilcock's graphic jobs for Richard C. Hoagland.
The next day, it was really creepy, and I didn't want to believe that it had anything to do with me. But then as the season went on, we had another example of a very clearly aircraft-oriented crop circle this year. So this was the next circle that appeared this year. And once again...
This is aircraft related? Again, this is like a Rorschach test. Everybody in the live chat, please put in all capital letters. What do you think this crop circle is a depiction of? And we'll see how many different answers we get. These things are way open to interpretation. And what is depicted in that crop circle really depends on who you ask. But according to David Wilcock, the aliens are coming here and making crop circles just for him.
What do we see? We see what looks like an eye. It looks like a stylized eye in a way, like an eyeball. And there's rays coming out of the eye, which also looks like a crown. So some people analogize this with a plane coming in for landing. It's like landing lights. But then again, notice also the circles. And once again, we have the motif of larger circles going towards a commonly shared center. Oh, I wasn't on. I was looking at my. Sorry. Okay, now I'm back.
Well, I can't work my live. Again, he can't work a live stream. And he's got a 180 IQ.
Back on camera. Okay, so. Yep. This was all good. It's live. Sorry if I made a mistake. But anyway, the point is you can see the circles in there, and they look very similar to the previous design. It's like a theme that these guys...
It doesn't look anything like the previous design, in my opinion. Again, these things are all open to interpretation. He's just interpreting it. God, how stupid are his followers if they believe that aliens are coming here and making crop circles to help him sell books?
They're now repeating. This was the next formation that appeared, and it again has...
These look like random geometric patterns to me. And you can assign whatever significance you want. It doesn't mean that's really what that crop circle means, but whatever.
A lot of similarities to the work that I'm doing, the 8-folded symmetry, a lot of interesting stuff, the mandala aspect. Then we had another one that shows vibrations.
Oh, you gotta
and
love it. And people were sending him hundreds of dollars of super chats for this level of garbage.
For geometry. So that's another subject I get into very heavily in the books. This was interesting because
it's not a trick question. Yeah.
When you see this
looks like my nads.
formation, there's a series of
Amish quilt,
3 leads put together.
A jester. See, and everybody that looks at these is going to see something different.
Called that shape the womb in my book before they did this.
Oh, that's interesting.
So in
Simon
case,
Fly knows where that
actually is.
Well, those aliens came there just to make that for David Wilcock.
Put together, yeah.
Hell with you, English people.
Something like 6 of them with just a few more things added in. It actually looks like a stylized womb. It was in my book. I had specifically pointed out this shape in.
Yeah, they can't contact us, but they can make crop circles.
2, something like that, and then it showed up. Again, they did it
gathering.
Again. So this, and I go into way more detail.
Looks like an Amish quilt.
So
Gigi Abby
here
Lynn.
is where I'm showing
I agree with you.
the original illustration again, with all of the interconnecting circles going towards the center. And somebody says, David, life has been lonely without you. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see you. Where are these formations? Okay. These formations all appear.
If you spin it with a strobe light, it's a UFO engine, says Matt Armitage. I agree, yeah.
They've been appearing and documented on cropcircleconnector.com since 1978. So I don't get any money for this. It's not an affiliate deal. But if you do go to cropcircleconnector.com, they now have everything from 2018 forward that's free.
Looks like a butterfly taking a dump.
2018 or 2014 or something like that, 2015.
They just proved my point that everybody that looks at these crop circles is going to see something different. He's just assigning it to some kind of significance to his books.
I forget exactly when, but anything older, you got to pay for the archive. But several of the years now, the last few years, are all available to be seen. So all I've done in this case is gone through the circles that were actually printed into these wheat crops. So when you look at this, for example, if you're not familiar with this, what you're seeing with these lines is, first of all, the double sets of lines, those are tractor lines because you got to drive a tractor through your crop.
Yeah, like he knows anything about farming.
The wheat is planted in neat, even rows, and as you can see here, it almost looks like a bunch of really thin
spirograph,
lines.
That's another thing it could be.
Then what's happening is that the crop is being pushed
the
down.
angels told him
By some type of energetic force. No
sure.
humans are ever seen. There's no footprints. There's no tracks. These images just appear in wheat. And the wheat is about up to your knees. That's about how high it is because I got out there and saw these myself. So this image also has something interesting in it because as you go towards the center, there's a very stylized way the crops fell down where you have what looks like the image of the sun. In other words, the rotating spiral in the center there's a circle, and then there's all these rays coming off of it. And we saw other indications of solar rays.
And again, he's saying this is what this is. Everybody looking at this is going to see it's something different.
Coming from the sun, that there's this energetic change. And again,
what are they then, Ganja?
Once more, these illustrations all show us the wicker basket formation. And my dream about the wicker basket formation had to do with the exposure and downfall. This was the dream I had in 1999. The dream had to do with the exposure and downfall of the people who had assassinated John F. Kennedy Jr. The dream actually predicted the death of John F. Kennedy Jr. before it happened, and it then telegraphed this crop circle by pointing out the wicker. Now, why is
wait a minute. He just said that his dream predicted the assassination of JFK, but he had the dream in 1999. How are you predicting a murder that happened in the 60s in 1999? He can't even keep, like, just some simple logic will just blow everything he says as garbage.
Is the wicker so important? Let me talk about that next.
Oh, the wicker. He's going to bring in a movie.
So there's this classic movie you can watch from the very early 1970s.
Yeah, it makes no sense, UFO Chain. How did he predict his death in 1999?
The core of the teaching in it. And in this movie, you have a police constable who goes to this
Time
island
shift.
that is run
Yes.
by pagans. And they essentially appear to be some type of Illuminati group. I
It
mean, they
makes
don't
no
call it that,
sense,
but that's
UFO
really what
Shane.
it is.
Yeah.
They're practicing paganism, practicing.
He's going to talk
pagan
about
ceremonies.
orgies now. Yes, I
They're
remember
having
this.
public sex. They're dancing around the maypole nude. All these kind of interesting things. Interesting to some people, not interesting to others. But you know, very abnormal and a very differential society, to say the least. So he goes out there to investigate the death of a little girl. And the ultimate point of the movie is that
So
everybody
David Wilcock saw
at
some
the
movie and
island
he's going to
is
just
involved in
put
some
that in there
secret
too.
organization, and they're all in on it together, and no one is going to tell the truth. They're all going to lie. They're all going to deceive you, and they're all going to work towards a common singular goal. And it's really pretty intense.
I get it,
because what ends
Stormcrow.
up
You're right.
happening is
He makes
that
no
the man
sense.
who was sent by the government, by the police, to investigate and arrest them, or whoever did this, because all of them were guilty. They actually convinced this guy to dress up in a jester costume.
Maybe Brandy.
And then
Yeah.
they lead him right into a wicker man. And he's actually burned alive.
That's what it is, 50,000
He's
bees.
burned
yeah.
alive in the jester costume because he's foolish and he doesn't realize what they're doing. He doesn't realize that they have him dress up as a fool. They have
Donovan
him
might be. That
they
might be how he
literally
does
dance
it.
him right
Yes.
into the wicker man, and then they set it on fire and he burns. And he calls out to God. He calls out to his Christian support system, but nothing happens and he just dies. So this really does illustrate their belief system. But in terms of where the wicker man
It
is
may
now
be.
and where these dreams are that I was getting, it's very clear that all of that karma has now turned around. And we are now seeing the result of our collective shadow projection. This whole thing that we're seeing in the world is actually a psychodrama.
Collective
It's meant for our
shadow
spiritual
projection.
evolution. We're not meant
That's
to
some word salad nonsense.
hang in there indefinitely and watch this thing get worse and worse and worse. There's going to be some type of moment of truth where everything reaches a concrescence. Everything reaches a type of...
David Wilcock is talking about a moment of truth. This man hasn't had a moment of truth in decades. He's just selling lies, right? Captain Eisen says Wilcox is obviously representative of intelligence services bent on twisting your mind, and he obviously has their protection or he would be in prison for his crimes. Alleged crimes.
absolute reality, which is now going to be the reality that we're all dealing with. And so the next thing that came out in the crop circles again illustrated some of these concepts in a very
Let's connect some more
way.
dots.
And this was, let's go back here. Sorry, everybody. It's live, you got to go with it. I want my animation to happen. There we go. All right, so this was another really interesting formation, which again has
Could be, yes.
wicker type of stuff going on in it. I'm going to pop back in a second.
Does that
here.
have wicker stuff going
yeah,
on in it?
This has been interpreted by many as the shield of Archangel Michael.
That is not a shield of Archangel Michael. Look it up. It bears zero resemblance to that. Come on.
And there was some very interesting codes in there. And again, you got the propeller blades, the fan blades, and the illustration of the physics, which I talk about extensively. I'm not going to go into all of it now, but the idea of the tetrahedron and the sphere as the photon, the building block of the whole universe. This is the fundamental basis of the model that I talked about through all the books and in this new video course that I just created for the books as well. Okay, so here's another illustration of that shield of Michael, and this is what other people
It's not the shield of Michael.
Then we had this one appear, and once again, I mean, I couldn't even believe it.
I have to stop for a second. There is a generally considered a shield of Archangel Michael. However, it's generally just a depiction of Michael on a shield, and it is used for religious purposes of protection. And this is generally what Archangel Michael's shield looks like. Just look up shield of Archangel Michael. Now, does that bear any resemblance to what he is saying is the shield of Archangel Michael? It bears zero resemblance. But hey, don't let things like facts and evidence and reality get in the way of a good story you could sell.
Once again, the circle makers used the motif of
The
all of
spheres
these
from
interconnected
Phantasm.
circles that
Nice.
are bigger on the outside, they go smaller on the inside, and they're radial, and they all point towards a common center, as you again see right here.
Coulthard's balls.
And what I
Yes,
found even
that's
more outrageous
definitely
and
what it
curious
is,
about this
Ganja.
formation
Physics remix. Yes.
was
In
that
the
in
next
circle
dream,
in the
he's
center, we had
RoboCop.
something that
Says
looks like the bat signal. It
XXX.
looks like
Yes.
Batman. I wish I could zoom in on that for you. I don't have a slide that does
It's
that.
Michael on a
Again,
UFO.
this is exciting because
This is so exciting,
I
friends.
believe that we
Yes.
are supposed to see that bat signal. So first of all, the wicker basket, again, it shows that the practices of the cabal are being exposed. They're not going to be able to do this anymore because too many people know about it. They only
Could
can,
be, Randy.
they only can operate in
It's a
secrecy.
Dragon Ball.
And I've been seeing for a while that this is not going to last until November 2024. Yeah, wars don't neatly confine to election dates. And the way that this thing is going to turn out and the culmination that we're heading towards is not going to fit neatly into a box. And it can't be held off for 14 months or 13 months or whatever.
I don't know that he said that at the Watcher.
It's happening now. And again, all of
This
these
is it.
references
We're
to
finally
the
getting
Wicker
full
formation
disclosure.
are all seemingly related to the downfall of the cabal. Because again, the whole point of the Wicker Man is that the one who is set up and then betrayed, right?
All right. So, in order to believe David Wilcock, aliens had to come down from other star systems and watch the Wicker Man movie and know what it means, and then put wicker in their crop circles to confirm the information being relayed to him by the Archangel Michael. It's just a little ridiculous that aliens would come all the way here and then watch the Wicker Man movie and then go, let's make some crop circles with wicker in them and confirm David Wilcock's stupid prophecies.
It's about betrayal. It's about being exposed. It's about being caught. In this case, in the original movie, the constable was caught, but now it's the other thing. So I do really want to talk about how we process our anger. But first, I want to get through the crop circles. But learning how to process our anger and how to reach forgiveness is an incredibly important step in making sure that we save our planet. All right. The next one that appeared was another one of these all-seeing eye formations. And
Is that the all-seeing eye, or is it just another geometric formation?
it has very similar things to the one where the 4 points were coming forward, except now the eye is pointing towards us. Almost like you're looking at somebody's stylized eye inside a telescope. So this
is so open to interpretation. 10 different people that look at this will say it's 10 different things. I'm sure many might say it looks like an eye, but what about the rest of the stuff? He's ascribing some kind of, cosmic significance to this.
again, I believe, is symbolic of how everybody is now seeing the eye that's watching us. The all-seeing eye is being exposed. We all see it. Pun intended.
So that crop circle is so that we'll know that the all-seeing eye is being exposed.
Right? So then there was another one which really was fascinating, and that's this formation, which shows 5-sided.
You remember how David Wilcock said how hard he works? He looks like he went on this crop circle website and grabbed like 10 or 12 and just made up a bunch of nonsense about what these mean, which would have probably taken him a whole of 10 minutes, right?
Geometry.
This isn't research.
General, they've
this
done
is
much less of
nonsense.
this, but in this particular formation, we have a bunch of stuff that I had already talked about in the books, including when you look at these 5 spirals in the formation, it looks like DNA. It looks like cross sections.
That bears zero resemblance to DNA. Again, these things are open to interpretation. It's not DNA. He's telling you it's DNA. Could be anything, like a geometric pattern, right? Or maybe it's an atom, or a solar system with planets spinning around, the sun, or whatever. Or maybe it's a pinwheel. This looks like a child's toy, a pinwheel. But David Wilcock's going to tell you it's DNA, and it's directly related to the book he's trying to sell right now.
Of a DNA double helix. And in the books and videos, I go into way more detail about that than I'm going to do now. But again, it was like, whoa, this is yet another example of how they, went through all this. And so in my course, it's still, half the course is finished. The rest is coming up. I am going to go through all of these crop circles in way more detail. This is a pretty fast and hazardous trip.
In case this wasn't enough for you, you're going to give him money to hear more of this nonsense?
Through the canon of this year's English crop circles, but I just wanted to get through them because the next one really, really, really shocked me. Because what we see here is unequivocally, without any doubt whatsoever, the NATO logo. They printed the NATO logo into the crops. And
oh my goodness, this is so stupid. They printed the NATO logo into the props. Well, let's take a look. That's what he's claiming. And this is the NATO flag, friends. And I mean, it bears some resemblance, I suppose, right? But what are the circles about? Why is it? No, it doesn't. It's not the same. It's a similar but different geometric pattern. But again, David Wilcock is going to ascribe some deep philosophical cosmic meaning that's related to his books and his Q nonsense. Now he's going to push Q nonsense.
If you don't believe that it's the NATO logo, in the crop circle, they actually used this shot as a comparison. Now, this was a very German-looking celebration. And yeah, there's a bunch of guys with a bunch of big weird stuff and dramatic lighting of these columns and weird flags, and it's a satanic pentagonal table that they're all sitting at. It's blood red. And then, what's that in the middle of the table? Oh, that's right. That's the NATO symbol. You see it? You see the NATO symbol there? You see it over here, folks? You think maybe, just maybe, the crop circle makers are trying to tell you something. Yeah, I believe.
Why would they just not tell us? Why would they go, these humans are hard to communicate with. They'll probably take this news better if we just stamp down some crops in England somewhere.
I believe they are, and I believe even that the people who analyzed the crop circle and found this NATO picture, that was part of it. Because when you look at the picture, I mean, hello, it's really, really creepy. It's very World War.
Or it could be a coincidence and have nothing to do with anything that he's saying.
II-ish, if you know what I mean. So now, look, I want to have pride in America. I want to have pride in my country, and I do. But at this point, we have some problems that we have to deal with, and they're very serious.
No, yeah, he's a big Trumper. Only Trump can solve the problems, right?
And it's on everybody's mind. This is a very troubling situation. So you have the wicker basket. You have the fall of kings.
It's just all disconnected nonsense that he's just slapped together in some weird. This is like a second grader trying to come up with their own conspiracy theory.
You have all these different illustrations illustrating the wicker basket, illustrating the fall of kings, and then they show you NATO.
Oh. Was there a chronological order? He didn't mention it. When were these? This is so problematic.
Right at the same time that now the U.S. has cut off Ukraine funding, EU has cut off Ukraine funding, everybody's pushing back. And so whatever the hell it was that they absolutely cannot lose this war, and they'll spend every last dollar they have to stop us.
Again, he's connecting his nonsense conspiracy theories to, he's done it twice now. So he's connecting his nonsensical conspiracy theories to two human tragedies, two separate wars on planet Earth.
From losing this war. They did that. They spent the money, they spent the ammo. The war is not going to be won by Ukraine.
Well,
and some people are very.
I don't really have an opinion on who, that war is still ongoing. And considering David Wilcock's wrong about everything, if I was a betting person, I would bet on Ukraine winning the war because he's been wrong about virtually every one of his predictions for decades now.
Very upset about that. Other people are not. There's two completely alternative realities going on in the world. And I think one of the most important things.
There's definitely two separate realities. One of them is the wacky world of Wilcock, and the other one is the real world that the rest of us live in.
What we all need to do is to have respect for the people who believe differently than we do, instead of feeling like the only way to believe is the way that we believe. So when the NATO formation showed up with all these illustrations of the circles going inward and the all-seeing eye is being exposed, and the sword and shield of Archangel Michael shows up. This is very, very interesting. The next illustration that came out in the crops after this very interesting NATO thing was this, which
another nonsensical geometric pattern that likely means nothing.
Actually was another callback to the guys who originally did the Crop Circle Connector website, cropcircleconnector.com, which again is where you can find a lot of this. You can get lost in this website. I would really highly recommend that you subscribe to their archive. You can.
Oh yeah, go on a Crop Circle website, and because if you believe me, you'll probably believe that was all made by aliens.
Once. You have a lifetime subscription. It always works. It's never failed for me. I have a username and password. I pop it in when I type in cropcirclearchives.co.uk. Boom, I'm in. Then I can look at all the crop circles that have appeared every year from 1978.
Oh, thank you, Amy
There's
WC.
incredible stories in that information. There's incredible data.
There's no data. There's no data. He's lying. There is no data. There's pictures. There's pretty pictures of geometric patterns made in crops, most likely by pranksters. But we thank Amy WC for Amy WC's kindness, generosity, and support. Says hard not to judge. Sounds like my science project in elementary school. Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. This is like the nonsensical ramblings of a madman. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. It's just nonsense. This guy is just putting together a bunch of nonsense, and I am at a loss for where does he get this? How does he even think that this makes any sense, right? How does any of this make any sense together? But we thank you for your kindness, your generosity, and your support, and for helping us to praise the cash, Amy WC.
Praise the cash, 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 praise the cash. Subscribe and hit the like button. Smash it like it's hot.
Smash it like it's hot. Thank you, Amy WC, for your kindness, generosity, and support. And just so everybody's aware, we read every single super chat. So we thank Amy WC for that kindness, generosity, and support. Thanks for appreciating us, and we appreciate you, Amy. Thank you. Let's move on with the nonsense parade here.
Waiting to be unpacked by us. And this, again, is a physics lesson about the basic particles that make up our reality, photons.
This is a physics lesson?
It looks like a tetrahedron. These circles are all illustrative of the shape of the tetrahedron, and then there's another sphere inside of it. There's a sphere on the outside, there's a sphere on the inside, and then the three circles.
No, those are intersecting. They're not inside each other. Oh, Jesus.
That are like in a triangular relationship to each other represent the nodes on the corners of this geometric pattern. Then we had this, which was a really interesting throwback. This was another crop circle that just unambiguously and directly.
This is the most boring crop circle I've ever seen in my life. Somebody made a circle, and then they made a circle in the middle.
Referenced this 2012 crop circle. Now, this one appeared in 2008. And as you can see, it is an outline of the planets of the solar system.
That's his interpretation.
I go through this in my videos, the ones that are now available as part of the Michael, Sacred Science of Michael Prophecies, how these planets in this
I think so, John.
only
Yeah, they're getting jealous.
on December 21st, 2012. Yes, this was the Mayan calendar end date. So you better believe that in 2008, when the Mayan calendar end date is 4 or 5 years away, and crop circle makers are showing us these things, and they show us the alignment of 2012, that really got me riled up and made me say, we better take 2012 seriously, because something's going on here.
And he was completely and totally wrong. 100% wrong about everything that would happen on 2012. He was 100% wrong about it. But hey, don't let things like history get in the way of a good story you could sell. You might want to, at least recognize, oh, by the way, I was wrong about literally everything I said would happen when that date would come. He was wrong about 100% of it. Completely and totally wrong. Unless we all got superpowers and I missed it.
Then the farmer tried to destroy the crop circle, and the crop circle makers came back and they said, oh, if you don't like crop circles, well, hell, we'll just make twice as many. We'll print another big giant circle right next to the first one and gobble up the entire rest of this land canvas. But there's a lot more
Zippo
going on
Fantastic
than
gets the
that.
comment of the night so far. Says, see this crop circle right here? It totally predicted my divorce.
Left. First of all, there's 3 lines that have been driven through the formation. That was done by the farmer. The farmer was trying to desecrate
nothing
the
happened
crop
on
circle.
2012. Nothing.
But then they actually came back in and they widened the sun.
Yeah, you're right. He
out
gets
the
into
orbit of
that.
Venus. Whoa. Does that possibly suggest that the sun will change? Does that possibly suggest the sun will either A, get bigger, or B, give off some type of energetic outburst?
I know he's not even as right as a
Exactly
broken
what
watch,
he said.
John. Even a broken watch is right
Again,
twice a day. That's how bad
we're
he
kind
is.
of delving into a massive, massive area of study, which is the concept of, okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen on December 21st, 2012? Well, this seemed to be pretty on the nose, and it was saying something according to ancient science is going to be changing with the sun. Well, I'd already had the evidence in place when this image appeared in 2008. It was, whoa. I mean, I've been doing this 2012 stuff. I've been out there lecturing about it for years. I've been doing
The
radio shows
lines.
for years.
MK Ultra, thanks for being a member.
1999, and from the beginning, I was talking about Mayan calendar end date, solar energetic change of the solar system. The whole solar system is transforming, and we're building up to something. 2 different historians, Giorgio de Santillana and Hurst von Deschen.
Yeah, he's leaving out that what he said we were building up to is a is a huge solar flash that would change us into having light bodies and superpowers. And none of that happened. But now he's going to somehow claim that he was still right because Proxima Centauri, I believe, did have a solar flash event near that date. Not on the date, but near it. It's close enough for psychic stuff.
You've heard me say before, discovered that there's 35 different ancient spiritual traditions that all talk about this concept.
That's all that happened, John. The calendar ended.
End of the age. And they have these prophecies about the end of the age encoded into their mythology. So this is really, really fascinating.
Oh, UFO Shane, I never realized that, but you're exactly right. UFO Shane correctly pointing out a solar flare that gives you superpowers is literally the plot to the Fantastic Four. That is. They went up in a space shuttle and there was a solar flare event and the radiation gave them all superpowers. So David Wilcock, his theory came directly from comic books. You gotta love it, friends.
And when they showed us the stylized 2012
he
formation
keeps sniffing.
here,
People are, I don't know.
And you see that, in fact, yeah, that's the same little thing. It's the
somewhere in the multiverse. Yes,
it's the image of the sun. First of all, in terms of astrology, you want to draw the astrological symbol of the sun. You put a circle with a dot in the middle.
Exactly.
Like
Why
this.
didn't he warn Israel if
exactly
he's such a
right.
prophet?
Even the size of the dot
Good
might be a little
point.
bit
I
bigger,
didn't.
but it's
I didn't even get to that. Yeah.
Well, that is a callback to the 2012 thing, and to me, it shows just like what the books are saying, that the events that we were expecting to happen in 2012 are now happening today, but without catastrophic shifts. In other words, the sun is not going to explode. We're not going to be incinerated.
Oh,
nor
good
am
news.
I like
we won't be
secretly
murdered.
winking my eye and telling you we're going to be okay when in fact I actually believe we're going to die. No.
Yeah, he added that plot
I do
point.
not
He
believe
added the
for 1
piss
minute
baths.
that we're going to be cooked. The Michael prophecies throughout all 7 books has made it very clear that we are going to be okay, and they are making sure the solar flash does not.
Clobbering time, the thing.
One of the things I really, really love to
Tester
talk
X.
about is the solar flash that did happen on Proxima Centauri, our next door solar neighbor, as of March 17th, 2016, I believe it was. And you can very precisely backdate how long it takes the light from Proxima Centauri to get here. It's 4.626
Phenomenon. Yes.
light years, I believe, or 262, something like that. 4.2 something.
Pinocchio.
4.2-ish. Anyway, the point is, if you do all the numbers, and you've seen some of these videos before, you can go back in my YouTube live collection, look at this. But we did have a solar flash on Project Centauri, and it was massive.
Oh, I was
Maybe
right.
a
I was
visible
just a
star. It
galaxy.
was
I was wrong by one galaxy. It was the galaxy next to us that got the superpower. Did they get superpowers? Here he says that it destroyed all life. But when he was saying that the solar flash event in 2012 was going to happen on Earth, we would all get superpowers.
Hot. It would have destroyed any life on any of the
Yeah,
planets in that
there
solar
it
system.
destroyed
And
life. Here we would have
it
all got
happened within 3
superpowers.
days of December 21st, 2012. The closest date that we can pin it to is about December 24th, right the day before Christmas. So isn't that interesting that we got a Christmas present from the universe, and it actually
X-Men
happened either
powers
the day before or on
activate.
Christmas, but within so close to the end of the Mayan calendar end date. That the sun right next door to us, the closest stellar neighbor we have,
probably not Operation
had a
Shutdown, but
solar
thanks for being a
flash
member, and thank
within
you, Just
3
Rex, for being a
days
member.
Of what the mother of all the 35 ancient
It could be
prophecies told us
some
was
kind
the
of
exact
he
date
could be
that this solar flash would happen.
mentally problematic.
It did happen. It just was next door. So isn't that bizarre? I mean, it's just like, what?
Did happen. I correctly predicted something. No,
happened
you
on
didn't.
Christmas,
You
like
said it was going to happen
Christmas
on
gift for
Earth.
us. Well,
Loser.
When the original crop circles appeared that I was talking about, we didn't know where
Yeah, I'm
this
aware
was
of that,
going. We
Zippo
didn't know what we were
Fantastic.
headed
77
into.
Outdoors, and thanks for being a
And
member.
so when I see this image of
Solar flare in 1800s melted all the
December
telegraph
21st,
lines.
2012, and then they come back and they make the sun widen out like this. The other part of the image was, okay,
He's
what's
even
that
wearing
circle
blue
on the
and
right?
black
Well,
like the Fantastic
it's all
Four.
hollow on the inside, and there's all these little doobie jodgers outside. Yeah, that's a real word.
Here we get hover
I learned it
cars.
from my buddy Larry Sire in Texas.
Yes.
Doobie jodgers is something you can say in Texas and get away with it. Okay?
Better than Dean Martin.
Anyway, the point is here that when you look at this
Ascended
image on
spirits.
the right, there's a circle with nothing inside of it, and that
He
could
was an entire
indicate the
solar
cell
system
wall.
off.
In other words,
He
what
says
you
this
see on the
means
top,
the cell
oval,
wall.
that oval shape with the bumps around
Or it could
that
be
looks
just
like a nucleus.
squigglies. It could be
And then the other
nonsense.
squiggly guys on the bottom look like various cell
This is like a
organelles.
late
And I
night
had a biologist
infomercial in
tell
the
me,
80s. Yeah. But
well,
wait,
then
there's
why
more.
would the cell organelles
Soul
be
Flash.
outside the
You
cell
Project
wall?
Centauri.
Why would the cell wall be drawn as the same size as our own solar
He
system?
looks like
Well,
he walked into a door,
does
says
this
Fox's
suggest that
friends.
all life in our solar system will be transformed in a way where we won't need biology anymore?
This
That's
is the
actually what I think is going
2012
on.
thing. He said we were going to all turn into light beings and we wouldn't need bodies anymore and we'd all have superpowers.
So let's see what else we got here. The last image that I have in this particular set of formations was this. This appeared in 1997.
You're right, Jester X.
And this was the Kabbalah.
Yeah, a 50-50 shot.
Formation.
What are you going to do? You get
So again,
you get
you
steak
look at the
knives.
lines and the certain quality, you see it's incredibly sharp, incredibly
there's
beautiful.
more.
It's hard to even see that this was actually printed in a crop because it looks so darn geometric and perfect.
Let's leave Krypton
we
out of this.
see
Yes.
A number of crop circles that have illustrated Christian symbols.
He does
A number of
have
crop
ideas
circles
for
that have
movies,
illustrated
yeah.
Jewish symbols like this. We've had the menorah. We've had
Rainbow light forms
the Kabbalah tree of
activate.
life here.
Yes, give me my
other examples as
superpowers.
well, King David related symbols, Star of David related
Here
symbols.
comes the QAnon gunk.
And the
Yes.
reason why they're showing us this cross-cultural, interconnected religious symbology is because they are the source of these religions, folks.
I'll give him that.
What we're going to learn
Thanks
as
for
a
being a
result
member.
of the arrest of the deep state, which is already well underway, mostly finished already, as far as
The arrest of the deep state is well underway, almost finished already. That's Q nonsense. Who got arrested, David Wilcock? Can we have a list of the deep state members that all got arrested? Nonsense.
as I'm concerned, is that, they've been doing this all along, and they're hiding the truth about our reality and our origins. We have been living in an artificial reality. The whole basis of living in third density here, and I'm just going to keep talking as I go to the next part of our show. The whole basis of living in third density here is to have these experiences where we are troubled and bad things happen to us and we learn our lessons, and the lessons always involve becoming more loving.
Oh, okay.
So
if we
in
have
order for
problems,
us to find peace,
just be
which
more
is the
loving.
purpose of today's show, we must first understand the origins of war. Why does war happen? And I had some very recent realizations about all this. Now, I didn't get through all the crop circles. There's some other ones that showed up, and we'll have to go through that later. But I also wanted to keep this to around an hour, and we're already like 5 minutes away.
Around an hour, and then he did 2 hours and 20 minutes.
We'll go a little longer, hour and a half, but I
oh,
really
maybe an hour and a half. No, 2.5 hours,
like
bro.
The 1 hour, 1.5 hour show. And your
he rambled about this woman.
Just drink a glass of water.
He rambled about this woman for like an hour. He could have wrapped this whole thing up in 20 minutes, if you ask me. Look at these crop circles. The aliens made them to confirm that I'm talking to the Archangel Michael, who told me to take a bath in my own piss to get superpowers. And even though I was wrong about my 2012 predictions, I was only one universe or one galaxy away. It really happened.
You want some more comments? Are you ready for that?
Oh, this is going to be good.
Welcome back. Wow, you were missed. You came back at the time most needed. I guess you feel that way too. I suffer from anxiety and depression. Thank you for your ability to do as much as you do. Everybody's got anxiety and depression. And
I don't think everybody has anxiety and depression.
I bless you. Absolutely. I'm sorry you're going through that. We all are. It really sucks. The life of the Earth is born from larger planets. Mother Earth's solar system is a body. I love how they're communicating with us through crop circles. The only thing artificial is his teeth. Okay, look.
Oh, no. Somebody want to answer him for his fake teeth. And by the way, here he's going to give a completely different explanation. David Wilcock once said that he had to replace all of his teeth because of the deep state. Because he was being attacked by the deep state, and the stress and anxiety of all the deep state attacks were causing him to grind his teeth in his sleep, and he ground his teeth down to nothing, so he had to get some fake teeth. Now he has a completely and totally different explanation for that.
Yeah, they're fake. But you know why they're fake? Because I was yanked out of the womb with forceps, and this whole side of my mouth got all smashed up, and the teeth didn't align properly. And I go to the dentist and they say, the only way we can do this is to give you a full mouth dental reconstruction. So I didn't want to do that, but I had to be able to chew food. So you want to make fun of the guy who's got false teeth, go ahead. But this is the best I could do. It cost a hell of a lot of money. It was incredibly painful. And at least I have something that looks kind of okay. All right. Anyone who doesn't enjoy 5 hours of David, just buzz off. Jesus said he's not of this world, the lie. Jesus is of the word, the truth. Our show hits so hard, mate. To ask a mountain to move, to ask a leaf to fold, to ask water to swirl, ask your DNA to mold, all we need to do is ask.
Boy, there's a lot of crystal hippie bitches in his audience.
Love you, David. Feel elevated as I read your books. Do you have a Telegram channel? No.
Who feels elevated reading David Wilcock's nonsense? Stupid people, I guess.
There's a lot of people saying I do, and I don't. So anything that you see like that is fraudulent. So please be aware of that. You can talk as long as you want to, and I would love it. You woke me up in 2012. Now I'm here to wake up. We want more. We want more. It looks more than...
You woke me up in 2012 with your false prophecies of things that never happened. You woke me up. These people are dumb.
Okay, it looks great. Thank you. You know, what I learned when I worked at the mental hospital is that the mental patients will come up to you and they'll pick on any aspect of your appearance.
I just want to say that him working at a mental hospital is... whew! That's something else, you know. That's like a pill popper working at a drugstore or something.
They think might hurt you. So people would come up to me and attack my skin, attack the acne that I had at the time. I had facial acne. They'd attack my weight. They'd attack my personality.
You get two.
And if I had these teeth at that time, they probably would have attacked that too. I think they look better than what I had before. And
UFOs and Q go together. Yeah.
So we can be okay with that. Anyway, yeah. I mean, people are crazy, and you guys get to see that right here. This is not fun, folks. You know, going out there into the world and being heckled is not really the best time, but I deal with it.
I won't read that, Donovan, but
and I hope you can take
that would
it
be
lightly
funny
when people do this to you, because this is actually the great lesson. Folks like me go out there in public, and other folks think, yeah, I can just hate him. I can just hurt his feelings and tell him that his teeth suck and his face sucks and his eyes suck and his jaw sucks and his hair sucks and his clothes suck. Okay. But you know what? I'm still going to fight for you. I still want you to be free.
He's fighting for us. He wants us to be free.
Water and have a roof over your head. and not be clutching a machine gun and fighting against some
Clutching
type of
a
invasion.
machine gun and
I'm
fighting
willing
an
to do
invasion.
this despite how much I'm attacked. I'm willing to do this despite how much I'm hated. And if you don't have enough haters, then you need to get more. That's the basis of being a truth warrior.
He's a
You have
truth
to learn
warrior.
that
When
it's
is
okay
the
if you're
truth
as
coming?
ugly as
He's
hell.
been wrong about
You can be
everything.
the ugliest MFer there is. You can be totally fat, totally disgusting.
Yes, you missed
totally
that MK
disgusting.
Ultra, but thanks for
It
being a
doesn't
member.
matter. It doesn't
He
matter.
just
what
said
you
that
look
stuff.
like.
He got
I
pulled
love
out of
you
the
just
womb
the
with
way you are.
forceps, and that crushed his
The
teeth.
fattest, ugliest, scrawniest, craziest, skankiest, smelliest people have come up to me at conferences. I have hugged everyone. I have never refused.
He's calling his fans a bunch of skanky, stinky people, but he still hugs them. Even if they're skanky and stinky, he'll still give you a hug.
Single person in line. Even when stalkers came up who I knew who they were and they'd been stalking me every freaking day, and in some cases, very nasty sexual stuff, they came up to me and I hugged them. All right? And I'm not even going to name names, but there's a couple I'm thinking of off the top of my head.
I had a lot of
One
work
them was an
done
Asian
once,
lady.
UFO
That's all I'm
Shane.
going to say. She
You
gave
just
me a
got to
really
get it
hard
done.
time every day. Long letters with elaborate, very crude sexual fantasies.
Oh yeah, some of his fans are sending. Women are having sexual fantasies about him, and then he later says that this crazy woman at the place he was getting spring water was hitting on him too. So his crazy fans are having all these sexual fantasies about him, and he just can't take it. Oh my God!
And then she shows up in line. What are you going to do, man? Well, I hugged her. And I acted like I didn't know who she was. That's how I actually handled it when it came to pass. So even if you're somebody writing those kind of comments about me, if you came to my event, you got in line, I would still hug you. I actually would. I'd smile at you.
All right, I'm going to get a hug from David Wilcock someday. And he's got to hug me because he'll hug the skankiest, smelliest people or people that are critical of him. That's a good way to be. Just hug people who think that you're, taking advantage of people and taking their money, right? For nonsense.
I'd be nice to you and I'd still hug you, even if I know who you were and what you were doing. Because I'm not attached. Okay, I'm not attached to the drama and the fighting. And this is very important.
Those comments were pretty rough in that live chat.
Would you hug me even though I'm a vandal? Yeah, of course. I mean, look, the reason why people vandalize property is that they feel unheard. And I had this woman come after me and vandalize me.
The next generation,
this
Patty.
What just occurred. There's a few different sources of spring water here in the mountains of Colorado.
Yeah, probably.
I hit them. I don't usually go to the same one because I don't want to create a pattern of activity.
Oh, this is where it gets really boring.
And there was a guy in front of the spring and a guy behind the spring, and you can only park in front of it or behind it. And
he's going to talk for a full-on hour about somebody being rude to him at line when he was getting spring water. And he's going to talk about this for an hour.
All the springs around here, if you find good spring water, it's very competitive. Everybody wants it. It's free. And, so you have to get in line. Well, this lady didn't want to get in line. She was behind the guy that was ahead of her. She was behind it. I walked up to her car. I tried to talk to her. And as soon as I started talking to her, she immediately accused me. She goes, well, I was here first. Like, I'm going to try to.
This is what I'm saying. Remember in the beginning of the broadcast where he said his life has been so intense? If your life is so boring that somebody being rude to you in line somewhere is going to make you rant about it on the internet for an hour straight, then you got nothing going on in your life. But I view these things from my own lens. Like, I've got a wife, I've got children, I've got all these different projects going on. I've got a lot going on. If somebody was rude to me in line at the supermarket or whatever, I wouldn't even mention it. I would just roll on with my life. I got bigger, better things to worry about. But apparently, David Wilcock has nothing going on because he's going to talk about this for like an hour, I think.
Get ahead of her in line. So she's incredibly aggressive, incredibly hostile. And I cleaned it up and I said, no, I'm just trying to figure out where I'm going to park. If you want to move where this guy is because he's about to leave, then I'll go where you are now. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Well, then it happened like 2 or 3 more times.
Maybe Stormcrow,
she's
yeah.
standing out there and the water is dumping down. None of it is going into her jug. And she told me she had 5-gallon jugs.
Hey, Paul Shields.
It's not filling
Thanks for
at all.
being a member.
As soon as I come out of my car with a funnel to try to help her, in 1 second, she realizes there's a funnel on the string. She grabs it and she starts angrily like moving it up and down like this. She had like it was like a silverback gorilla. She's doing this kind of thing.
She's calling some woman that this is where I really start to lose it. David Wilcock has at various times claims to be Earth's greatest prophet, right? And he's in contact with angels. Somebody was rude to him and he's calling her a gorilla. I'm going to say that one more time. The enlightened spiritual guru here, somebody was rude to him. And instead of just forgiving that person, hey, maybe she was having a bad day. He goes on a live stream and complains about her to thousands of live stream viewers and calls her a gorilla. Some ascendant master.
I walk up to her. Now, the only reason why I'm walking up to her is to try to help her fill the jug. And she doesn't want my help. She's incredibly angry, incredibly hostile. And
sniff.
This was
UFO
so bizarre
Shane.
that I said, okay, there's a certain time where you want to get into an argument with somebody, and there's a certain time where you absolutely do not want to have an argument. I do not want to have an argument with this woman.
We haven't done that in a while.
Stab me.
For those unaware, we do something called the camera switch game, which means every time David Wilcock switches cameras, I switch cameras as well. We'll do that. We'll see if we can't keep up.
She's crazy. She's screaming. She's yelling in public, and that's illegal. I mean, there's laws that we have.
It's illegal
to prevent you from
to yell in public. It's illegal to yell in public. Oh, sorry. Wait, I have to change my camera angle here. There we go. We'll do close up because she's doing a close up. There we go. We'll play the camera switch game.
This kind of nonsense. You're not allowed to be out there in public. So I knew she was breaking the law. I knew she was committing acts of abuse and harassment. Did I get mad at her?
She was breaking the law because she was rude to him.
Yeah. But because it's so dangerous and she might even sue me, I'm like, well, I got to keep it really small. It's like laconic. There's a word called laconic, which has to do with the people of Laconidae. So they're in a war, and their enemy goes, if you and they responded with one word. They said if, because remember the sentence started with if you All they said was if, and that's a laconic statement. It's a statement that's very emotionally intense, with a very, very small number of words. And so when you're dealing with somebody who has psychopathy, who's a psychopath,
could be
which is
Storm
obviously
Pro.
what this was. This woman yelled at me, and then she yelled at the next guy.
No, I don't think he has a cry, John.
I believe the best way to handle it is just immediately cut the cords. Don't get into an argument. You don't know how far this is going to escalate. You don't know what this person is capable of doing. And, they might not like your teeth either. So you could be in
Me and UFO Shane are going to hug David Wilcock together.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So what did I do? I wanted her to have something.
Do I think he would hug me? He said he would hug anybody. So
I said, you are very strange. And then I turned around and walked away and said nothing else. And of course, I know in her mind that that's going to give her a gap of silence where the Jim Morrison song is going to play out in her mind. People are strange when you're a stranger.
Now he's quoting
Faces
Doors
look ugly
lyrics.
when you're alone.
Yes.
Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. The streets are up even when you're down. So what I was doing is telling her, look, you're totally out of control. You need to get control of yourself because your life is falling apart. You can't act like this.
He's talked a lot. He said nothing, John. You're right.
And by showing her that reflection, I mean, she totally freaked out.
The gorilla lady. Yes.
And that was all I needed to do. The next guy that came after me, she yelled at him, and then she peeled out in front of us and took off. And it's like, look, all I did is tell her the truth. You're strange.
Gorilla.
But that was enough. So sometimes the best thing you can do is to let the other person withdraw with dignity. If the nature of war is that you don't feel satisfied enough by what you've already done to defend yourself. You got to keep defending.
It's illegal to yell in public. Yeah.
Wars go on because we don't know how to stop this behavior. We don't know how to end this behavior. We just keep wanting to fight. We keep wanting revenge. We keep wanting justice.
Could be Captain Eisen.
We don't know when it's ever going to end. And that's the danger that we face right now. the deep state has done outrageous crimes, but the Michael prophecies reveals that those crimes are what prevented this pole shift from happening. So you can be very pissed off at the cabal, but you can be happy that you're alive.
You could be angry at the cabal.
Because the angelic forces are not going to let us
I
have a
missed
nuclear
the
war. They're not
camera
going to let things go
change.
into a big full-scale conventional war either. And when you start to understand what angelic forces are, this begins to make sense.
Oh, we got to change again.
Have our backs. They have our protection here. But we have to do our part. We have to learn what's going on. So after this woman confronted me, I realized that one of the main teachings that I wanted to share with you guys today is this concept that bad boundaries lead to infiltration.
This is so stupid.
In the case of what I was going through here, let me cut back.
What he was going through. Oh, we got to change
a glass of water.
Camera
Being hydrated
again.
enough is a very important part of having a happy show. So bad boundaries, huh? Why would I mention bad boundaries as being so important? Well, the idea is that Michael has said that the conflicts that we have in the world are holographic projections of the conflicts in the human psyche. And therefore, this massive thing that we're going through as a planet right now is a teaching for us to become more.
Oh, this is so stupid. So somehow a woman was rude to him while he was filling up free water jugs of spring water. But don't worry, because the Archangel Michael said that this is just a manifestation of our inner psyche. Like, okay.
Spiritual, or to become more negative. But there is a polarization. You do have the option of which way you want to go with this.
Oh, we got to change again.
So when you have bad boundaries, you allow psychopathic people to come into your life, and you engage in codependent behavior, which is often referred to as caretaking or people-pleasing.
I can't even drink water properly.
It was very, very interesting because this woman totally yelled at me, and then 2 days later, I was at a local stop getting food. And there's only, certain food that I like, and I can only get it on certain days.
This is bizarre. There's only certain food I like, and I can only get it on certain days. Is he going to a food bank to get free food, like to a homeless shelter, or what? There's only certain food I like, and only certain days I can get it.
So this was a Saturday. The food was available. I was there.
The food was available.
Not mess up with my mic here.
It wasn't available the rest of the week, just on Saturday somehow.
Okay. Okay, so there was food, and I'm parked at this place, and there she is. I mean, within like a minute and a half.
Oh no, the rude gorilla lady. Yeah, MK Ultra. Thanks for two things: being a member, and for we're gonna need a seventh camera. We're definitely going to need a seventh camera, but thank you for helping us to praise the cash, MK Ultra.
Where's the cash? 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 Where's you?
Praise it. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Thanks for appreciating us, and we appreciate you. Patrick Sheen is asking if he's going to the Salvation Army. I just found it weird. Like, what do you mean there's only certain food you like and only certain days you could get it? Does that mean they were only serving chili down at the homeless shelter on Saturday? So you went on Saturday? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Most restaurants, maybe they have a weekend menu, but it just seems weird that he had to stop and point out that he only likes certain food and can only get it on certain days.
When I arrived, the same woman showed up, and this was another lesson in, like, you know what?
Uh-oh,
you act
the
like
gorilla
that
woman.
One day, it could come back to you the next day because you live in a small town.
Yes, Maltz, we covered that here.
Now, thank
Search
God
our channel for Emery
me.
Smith. We covered that whole thing with
But
his
I got to see the guy that
ex-fiance.
he was with, and I realized the guy looks just like me. He had the same kind of hair. It was he had a full beard, and he had glasses, and he was a nicely dressed guy. But in this case, if she's willing to light me up like that, part of it
AI
might
Steve
be
is
that I
singing
look
that
like her
Zippo.
boyfriend, and
Fantastic.
she was comfortable abusing this guy. I mean, this.
So
is
the Ascendant Master, somebody was rude to this spiritual guru, and he then calls her a gorilla And now he's saying, with no evidence of it, that she's abusive to her boyfriend, and that's why she was abusive to him, because she's comfortable being abusive to her boyfriend, and David looks like her boyfriend somehow.
Very comfortable with abusing other people. Like I've only had maybe 3 confrontations in public that were this bad, and this was one of them. And one of the other 3 confrontations was the last time I was doing live streaming. So you wonder why I don't want to do live streaming. I get these weird attacks. I get these negative things that happen seemingly from nowhere. And I've talked about this a lot in previous videos. So if you don't have good boundaries,
John made me crack up. That's another comment of the night.
Really ruin your life. You know, when
I think he knows this lady because they're both in the same homeless camp, or maybe they're going to the same food shelter.
Do not
whatever.
Understand what you're dealing with.
Food
you
bank.
Don't know what behaviors to look for, and you let them run roughshod over you. So there's a very important. There's lots of interesting things here because, again, if you have bad boundaries, whoops, let me get to the slide. If you have bad boundaries, it leads to infiltration and takeover. So when you can't protect yourself, when you feel like, well, I might hurt somebody's feelings, I can't be honest, I can't communicate what I really am thinking and feeling, I don't ever want to be like that again. I would say one of my deepest weaknesses. Yeah,
Wilcock encountered a Karen, and he's going to make an hour live stream about it.
I find myself in situations where people upset me, and then I didn't tell them what was going on, and instead I used passive-aggressive means. And I don't really think either one is good. Passive-aggressive is not better than being aggressive. In fact, being aggressive... Tell
Sheila I said hello, MK.
If it's in terms of how
Thanks
you
for
would
being
see it
here.
as aggressive, meaning, well, if I say what I really feel, that's aggressive.
It pushes a trolley full of recycling.
No, that might actually be the best thing you could do. Being honest might actually be better.
Homeless camp is also at the
aggressive than being passive.
Oh, no.
Passive-aggressive is worse. Passive-aggressive really tortures people, and we don't understand.
I agree, Patrick Sheehan. And thanks for being a member.
In general, have a much higher level of anger than we really believe, and it's typically an anger against God at the end of it. That's why Michael calls it the Elvis Maryland syndrome. You know, these are the 2 biggest names in our history.
I agree, Stone Hobbit. He's probably talking about somebody close to him.
Known by their first name basis only. They became very famous, very wealthy. Okay, now let's look at their lives and see were they happy or not. And the answer is, oh my God, were they not happy? Yep. Elvis died in a bathtub, alcoholic, overweight. Marilyn died of a drug overdose. She was very depressed. She was, you know.
How does he know they were not happy, though?
There's no doubt that we are taught to want this kind of.
Oh, geez, I'm getting tired of switching cameras here. And, you know, this is kind of stupid. Like, he's relating his own level of fame to Elvis and Marilyn Monroe. I mean, it's kind of, you know, look, no offense. He is no Elvis or Marilyn Monroe in level of fame, but now he's going to cry to his followers that he's a public figure and he's famous and it's not all it's cracked up to be. And my life is so terrible and difficult.
Success, the showbiz success, the fame, adulation, your name in lights, and there is no doubt whatsoever that when you get there, you don't like it.
He's really famous and he doesn't like it.
Got to meet most of the rock stars of the 1980s growing up, and nobody liked being famous. It's very, very rare.
I don't know about you. Do you ever meet a famous person that was miserable? I don't know. I mean, I guess there is something to that. It's not all it's cracked up to be, I'm sure, but with fame comes an awful lot of earning potential, right?
And you also really don't make money. You got to do 3 records before you earn out, and nobody makes it through 3 records. Therefore, nobody earns out.
There have been hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of musicians and artists and songwriters that have made it to 3 albums. It's a stupid generalized statement.
The only time you ever have any money is while you're in the band on the road, and then you just work like a slave the whole time, only to find out at the end.
His father was a music writer, by the way.
And so there's lots and lots of examples to this. 30 Seconds to Mars. You can watch the whole movie about
probably his ex-wife at his lawyer's office, yeah.
And how Jared Leto has this rock band and he's touring all over the world and they're selling out every show. And he was like millions of dollars in debt when he got done because of the way they work these contracts.
Well, that
So
he's a
that
bad
can
business person.
Well, if we're taught that this is the ideal that we're striving for, to become this famous person, and then it turns out that it's really, really awful and nobody likes it, well, what do you do with that? Well, I would say, if you do want to be a public figure,
Yeah, he's projecting his own misery.
And that it can be a very, very intense sacrifice.
Oh, he's making such a sacrifice, making millions of dollars, selling nonsense and lies.
An individual having a relationship with a truly psychopathic person, which you may or may not have ever had, but we got to look at that relationship, that relational dynamic.
He gave millions of dollars to a scammy aerospace company that's running Ponzi schemes and investment scams.
So what happens when you have bad boundaries and you're passive aggressive?
You're right, Bobby
you are now
Broadway.
Allowing them to do the dirty work. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is that this is how governments get authorization for
he was a music writer.
To commit mass atrocities. The people have bad boundaries. The people don't want to stand up for themselves.
David Wilcock's just as famous as Jared Leto.
Honestly and clearly about
he's making a big sacrifice being famous for us.
And so
we should feel sorry for him.
These political entities.
Grifting 101, be reluctant, says UFO Shane. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right now, there is an incredible amount of racial trouble that is being stirred up. If you think about it, with this mass illegal immigration, there is a temptation as an American that if you see anyone who is a Latino or a Latina,
and the good point, MK Ultra is pointing this out. He is constantly calling other people psychopaths. He has rambled for hours and hours and hours about psychopaths on previous streams. Now he's spending an hour, and I get that he's got a 4-year psychology degree, but does that really qualify him to diagnose somebody that was rude to him in line as a psychopath? He also called her a gorilla, though. So welcome to the wacky world of Wilcock.
Which might then lead to anybody who's a Latino or a Latina being treated with less respect than they were before, because there's a presumption that they might not be a legitimate American. You got to let go of that. You can never assume that somebody's an illegal immigrant when you look at them. Same thing with black versus white. This is a particular issue that is so
he's yapping about nothing. Yes, it qualifies him to diagnose the entire planet, apparently.
In a completely racially integrated part of upstate New York. I hung out with black people. I hung out with every type of ethnicity.
And he's always trying to prove he's not a racist, right? Oh, I smoked cannabis with black people, so I can't be a racist.
My best friend in high school was Jewish. My best friend in college was Jewish.
Now his best friends are Jewish. Yeah.
Then I moved to the South, and I'm like, wait a minute. After World War II, some people are still mad at the Jews? And now it looks like whites are the Jews, right? Whites are the new Jews. It's this owner class. It's this oppressive, elitist race that is now...
Yeah, most people wouldn't make a big deal about this. Somebody was rude to you on the internet.
Sounds very familiar, folks, because it's the same stuff. They just keep doing it over and over again. And they try to find, okay, who's angry, and how can we...
But what's funny is, if I have somebody be really rude to me, I try to diffuse the situation with humor, saying tell them a joke or something, and just move on with your life. Maybe you make them smile or make them realize that they're being kind of ridiculous. But I sure won't make an hour-long live stream about it.
Do the dirty work. How can we do the dirty work for your anger? Oh, you know what? It's okay if you're passive aggressive. We love it. We love it if you don't tell us what you really feel. We love it if you effing hate us. We love it if you walk off and you stew and you're so mad and you're just going to sit there and do your little blog. But we don't care, right? That's the way they think.
Do their little blog. He's talking about critics here.
Especially, the best thing you can do is tune it all out. And I've seen so many people now, they're like, oh, I've just tuned out the news. I'm not paying any attention to what's going on at all. Wow. You're not paying attention?
Oh, I'm behind.
Tuned out the news?
I'm probably 1 or 2 behind.
I don't mean to be rude.
Now I'm 2 behind.
I think that's a very, very dangerous thing. When you are in a relationship with a psychopath, which is what we all are on a planetary level, you need to be aware of how dangerous this person is.
We're trying to keep up with his camera changes. It's difficult.
That until you engage them, they're going to keep doing all the dirty work. And the dirty work is going to ruin your life.
Oh, we're going to change it again.
Here's this woman who yells at me in public like nothing I've ever seen before. Honestly, it hurt me. I mean, I've been so distraught.
He was so hurt by this.
I didn't want to do this show. Because I got completely attacked in public.
He got completely attacked in public. And he was so distraught. I'm going to change this myself now. He was so distraught. He didn't want to do this stream because he was attacked in public. Like, who does he think he is? Like, oh my God, how dare somebody be rude to me in line somewhere?
And it was really violent.
It was violent,
but like, I totally believe this woman was capable of stabbing me right in the moment of us being around.
This rude lady was going to stab me, and that this story gets crazier and crazier as he goes on with it.
I mean, how can you be so angry at a random stranger in public just because? I don't know. I mean, I told her it's obviously seems like you want to be left alone.
Yeah, he's helping people with this nonsense.
Give you all the space you want. But then this other guy jumps ahead of me.
Yeah, what was worse, the woman or the smoke detectors?
He started selling his drugs, and now they're screaming at each other. So then I had to get out there again. And part of why I got out there again is that this guy wasn't leaving. He was right next to her.
John.
He was mad.
Oh.
She had yelled at him.
John, if you don't mind, I'm going to share that. This is interesting. John Christian Spadavecchia, I hope I'm saying that right, sir, it recently found this. Look at this. Stevati Aerospace on Friday, September 1st. Stevati director Admiral Charles W. Moore Jr. retired, and Stevati founder and CEO Christopher R. Beskar met with United States Congressman Pete Sessions in Waco, Texas. But here's where it gets interesting, because John is writing a book. And this is where it gets really interesting, because he's asking that congressperson for comment. This message is for Pete Sessions or any appropriate member of his staff. You don't know me. I am not a constituent of the 17th Texas District. My name is John Christian Spadavecchia. I'm contacting you regarding an alleged public appearance of Pete Sessions with an individual named Chris Beskar, who is the CEO of a company called Stevati Aerospace. Chris and Stevati claim to have met Pete Sessions recently and include a photograph of the alleged meeting in their X Twitter account. And it gives the link. This alleged meeting is significant, and it is relevant to the public interest because this year, Chris Beskar, this is the head of David Wilcock's aerospace company, and Stevati were sued in federal court in the District of Arizona for civil conspiracy, violations of RICO, and running a classic Ponzi scheme. Stevati and Chris Beskar and Chris's wife are in default in the case, meaning that the substance of the lawsuit has been confirmed to be true. The lawsuits and its implications are just the beginning of Stevati's legal wrongdoings and damage to investors. The filings in the case can all be found here. I'm in the process of writing and publishing a book about Stevati, this lawsuit, and the actions of the company and their leadership. Firstly, I'm interested in verifying if this alleged meeting between Pete Sessions and Chris Beskar Stevati actually took place, as Stevati has proven that they fake pictures and documents. Secondly, if this meeting in fact did take place, I am interested to know how Pete Sessions and his staff could possibly have failed to vet Chris Beskar and Stevati, since the meeting seems to have taken place at least 5 months after the defendants in the case were found in default. Thirdly, I would like to know the general extent of the relationship, if any, between Pete Sessions, Chris Beskar, and Stevati. I'm inclined to think that Pete Sessions and his staff would not knowingly meet with or platform a court-substantiated Ponzi schemer, nor am I inclined to think that there is any nefarious intent on the part of Pete Sessions and his staff. Regardless, I would like your input and clarification on this matter before the facts as I have them are written into the book for publication. So Stevati is the head of Stevati is meeting with congressmen, and the congressmen have no idea that he's just lost in federal court for running a Ponzi scheme. Great. David Wilcock, CEO, is running a Ponzi scheme according to court documents. Why is he not discussing that? Don't you think he should? After all, maybe he's one of their victims. He claims he dumped millions of dollars into Stevati. Interesting that Stevati's CEO just lost in court default judgments that accuse him of running an investment scam and a Ponzi scheme, and now he's meeting with congressmen.
And I'm like, this guy might assault her, so I better get out there.
Oh yeah, he went out to save the girl from the other guy.
Back out there again, and she laid into me again.
If this situation even happened at all, I know it's so stupid.
I counseled the guy.
It's almost like he made the whole thing up.
Almost, he was very upset, and he told me that
he claims the other guy was crying almost. I mean, there's a lot of men in our audience. How many times have some Karen been rude to you, and how close to crying did that make you? Is he just making all this up? Like he makes up all the alien nonsense? Maybe.
I'm like, well, yeah, what you just saw in the field is a true psychopath.
And he's diagnosing her. She's a psychopath now. Maybe she was just having a bad day, David Wilcock.
They go through life and they create confrontations like the one you just had. It doesn't matter whether they
he claims that they named it after him, Jester X.
Their main focus in life is making other people miserable. The more miserable they can make you feel,
there's not going to be a hover car.
That's just the way.
I don't think so.
This stuff really works. So another big principle that I want to talk about is
change camera angles again.
Drama triangle: rescue, persecute, and victim.
Now I was going to throw some psychology nonsense in here because we don't have enough nonsense yet.
This is what happens in individual relationships, and I realized this morning that this is what's also happening in the relationship that we have with these global elites. In other words,
I got to change again. Sorry. Hold on.
Engaged in this three-part system of rescue, persecute, and victim. Now, what does that mean? There was a psychologist named Dr. Hartman, and he came up with this. The idea is that when you have not healed from codependency, you keep running through this three-phase process with other people you know. And so the first thing you do
across state lines.
is you look for someone who needs to be rescued. And this is the rescue part of the triangle. Once you find someone to rescue, you then
maybe on one thing
on their own, you help them out, you save their life.
He can't even part of the thing. He can't even get his story straight about why he had to replace his teeth with these ridiculous big fake teeth.
Is that after doing all this, you feel entitled to love from them. You feel entitled now. Well, because I've done this for you, I want you to behave a certain way for me.
He's a lookalike to her possible man, yes.
Because your expectations are too high.
A psychopathic gorilla.
And in rescuing them, typically you actually want a really big payoff that you're not going to get. So when you don't get the really big payoff that you thought rescuing them would give you, when you don't get the life and the manifestations from them that you want, now you move into the persecute phase, which is the next one here. Rescue, persecute, and victim. And you persecute them and you get angry and you push back. So like,
I swear he's talking about his wife here or something.
Stranger, I tried to rescue her by giving her my funnel, and then as soon as she saw my funnel,
he tried to save her with a funnel,
and then was very, very aggressive about, well, what's wrong with this funnel, and all this kind of stuff.
She was very aggressive,
and you're holding it like a silverback. I mean, like a coconut in the waterfall. What are you doing? And all these macho, masculine. Her face the whole time. It was unbelievable. I mean, and she was delaying it as long as possible because
I agree, Paul Shields. Thanks for being a member.
We were waiting for her, so the longer she's got to drag it out, the better. So she keeps going into her car.
Yeah, I think this is about his own relationships.
Fills it like this. Yeah. It was so crazy, man. You just cannot imagine.
Oh, it was so violent. Oh, it was so terrible.
So then after the persecute phase, you persecute them because you push back and you say, well, you're not loving me enough, and now I want more love.
I give up on the camera game. I can't keep up with his camera changes. I just can't do it.
That's the secret. Do people love you more? No. Do they love you more when you get mad at them? Does you getting mad fix anything? No. And then they don't do what you want, and they withdraw from you, or they otherwise fight back or piss you off, and now you go into victim. Oh yeah, that's right, because there's three phases. Yeah, so the last phase is victim.
The last
phase, now you go around and tell everybody how much you hate this person. Oh my God, they're so terrible.
In the last phase, you go around and tell everybody you hate this person. Oh my God, they're so terrible. He's doing this right now. He's going around telling people that this woman's a psychopath and a gorilla, right? And he's giving advice on how to handle this, and he's handling it exactly the way he's saying that you shouldn't handle it. It's so stupid.
can't believe. Blah, 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 blah.
I can't
But wait a
believe this
minute.
woman
You
did
were
this
the
to
one
me.
who rescued them in the first place. And the reason you rescued them is that you wanted them to have a debt to you that they would need to pay back. Let's be very, very, very honest, because that's what you have to do.
Oh, you got to be
very,
honest
very
while you're
honest
telling
with
a
yourself.
completely fake story.
You're creating a debt and you want them to pay it back. And that's entrapment. You found somebody who's weaker. You found somebody who had trouble. You wanted to rescue them.
You're
you
right.
wanted to help them out.
Zippo. Absolutely.
But then when they don't have gratitude, you get pissed off. You yell at
There's
them.
the gorillas
That
from
doesn't work, and
John.
now you feel like a victim. Unless you heal from this through
Nice.
forgiveness, the next stage of the triangle comes in, and again, you rescue someone.
Hey, Lucy
and
Day.
again,
Better late than
you
never.
persecute
Glad you're
someone,
here.
And again, you feel like the victim. And you're helpless, and it never stops. That's reality. Now, the Cartman's drama triangle, this three-phase process, rescue, persecute, victim, actually applies equally well to what
Maybe
we are
MK
seeing with
Ultra.
the deep state, cabal, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, now we're going to relate all this to the
Insofar
deep
as
state. Yeah, it's the deep state's
we
problem. Yeah,
feel
my
like
pleasure.
we are
Good to
the
see you,
ones
Lucy
rescuing
Day.
them.
Thanks for being here.
And how do I mean that? Let's say they create a mandate. They say you have to wear something or you have to take something, right?
Oh, and there's
You're
going to talk about the
rescuing
health
them. You're
situation.
part of the codependent relationship. If you then go out and fight other people on their behalf, you fight other people, you demand that they wear, you demand that they inject, you demand that they do whatever it is that they're supposed to do. And then, of course, they don't want to do it. And then you persecute them. And then persecuting them doesn't work. And then you feel like a victim. And so if we stay in anger,
I don't even know what to say about
we're
what he's
never
saying.
going to heal. The secret to all this actually is loving yourself enough to walk away from a sick
Oh, when
person.
that angry Karen is
And in
rude
this
to you,
case,
you got to love
the
yourself
person
enough
that
to
we are
walk
walking
away.
from is not a person, it's an entity, and it's represented by this particular
Oh, she's an
idea
entity now.
of a secret combination of forces in
She's
the
an
pillars of our
entity
society
now.
where they're colluding together in an organization that is occulted from our eyes. We don't really see who they are. They're never going to be honest. They're never going to tell us the truth. And they're only giving us little bits of what they're up to.
What about delusions of
Get
grandeur and
focused.
messiah
Now,
complex, David? Could that be familiar at all?
there's so many places I
Yeah.
can go with this, and we don't have a whole lot of time left. I want to try to keep this to 1.5 hours. So
He won't
let's
even
talk
be
a
able to
little bit
keep it
about
to
what
1.5
happened here with
hours. It's
Michael Prophet.
2.5 hours.
I've now spent 2 years. I'm over $1 million, way over $1 million in debt. So I've got all these envelopes stacked up upstairs that I could open up that tell me that my life is over.
Apparently, he's ignoring bill collector letters, I guess. And he's claiming he's over $1 million in debt. And now here comes the big pitch. Instead of taking responsibility for his own financial failings, some of which could be giving millions of dollars to a Ponzi scheme scammer, according to court documents, alleged scammer, whatever you want to say, instead of taking responsibility for his own financial failings, and remember, according to other court testimony in an unrelated case to Stavati, David Wilcock made $2 million from his last course, but now he's going to claim that he's $1.4 million in debt, and instead of taking responsibility for his own debts and paying his own bills, he wants you to. I'm going to say that one more time. Instead of taking responsibility for his own financial failings, right, and paying his own bills, out of the last $2 million that he got from the community here and his followers, he wants you to pay those bills for him because his information is so fantastically accurate. He's been completely wrong about everything for 20 years, but he wants you to believe that he's in communication with angels and you should give him $333 because that's what angels want. They want to communicate secret and sacred knowledge to new age gurus who will then sell that secret and sacred knowledge given to him by angels for $333 because all of this makes sense. But what we really need to recognize and understand is, does he have no responsibility for his own financial problems? Shouldn't he have paid that whatever money he owed people from the last $2 million that he got from his last course? No, forget it. I'll just make a new course and try to collect another $2 million or more.
And I'm so deeply in debt, and it's become very difficult to earn. I mean, the level
it's
that
so
I used to be able
difficult
to
to
earn is
earn.
not there anymore. So I don't want to dwell on this too much, but I do want to say,
Yeah, well,
this
maybe
is a-
calling a former employee like Gaia TV who was connected to all the conferences that you could work, that Luciferian Satanists might be bad for business. And by the way, he hasn't been working conferences for years. Is he banned from them because he turned on a former employer? Could be. And remember, Wilcock was getting something like $10,000 to $20,000 to give 1 2-hour talk.
very, very noteworthy time for me, because what started out as 3 books has now turned into 7. Now, what are the books? Let's just talk about this, because this is very, very.
This is his selling points. Well, it's not just 3 books of nonsense; it's 7 books of nonsense.
Very relevant. In the 1990s, I got online, I was listening to Art Bell, and I was paying attention to all the paranormal stuff that we all know and love, ghosts, UFOs, Sasquatch, everything. And Art Bell was the big name at the time, and his big obsession was remote viewing. Remote viewing was something that was invented by the U.S. military.
Yeah, he could have been named in that case,
where you
but he wasn't,
hypnotize an
to the
ordinary
best of my
person, you
knowledge.
train them in these techniques, and once they're trained, they have a guide that they work with.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah, Rocky Mountain
an
Water,
astonishing
right?
amount of accuracy in looking at a particular remote location. So you send them to the Fort Meade
Yeah, maybe
sewage
he'll send
processing
a-
plant, which was apparently one of the jokes they did, because it's really disgusting. You're going to smell sewage, you're going to see what's going on inside, and then you have to describe it.
I
But
think
the
he
point-
said that remote viewing is 99% accurate. No, it's not. It's nowhere near 99% accurate.
The point is that people would become 99% accurate if they followed these protocols properly.
It's not
and if they
99%
behaved
accurate.
themselves and did the
Nowhere
way they're
near
supposed to do.
99%
This was
accurate.
replicable, which is the basis of science. Replicability.
Show me a remote viewer that's 99% accurate, David Wilcock. You can't and you won't, because you're making up fake statistics to prove that your flawed arguments aren't so flawed. They're incredibly flawed. There have been studies into remote viewing. Nobody came anywhere near 99%.
Means you're doing it over and over again.
And he's going to claim, first he claims remote viewing is 99% accurate. Then he claims he's using those same protocols to give you this information in his garbage books.
And it keeps showing you positive results. So in this case, I found out much later from Pete Peterson that the reason why
Pete Peterson is his completely and totally fake whistleblower government insider. You remember that guy, the guy who was running pump and dump stock penny scams before hanging out with David Wilcock? The guy who ran a GoFundMe scam to the tune of $60,000, claiming that the deep state and the government were throwing all of his possessions into dumpsters. None of that happened. It was all a lie. That's his source for what he's about to say. A complete and total fake government insider. Prove he worked for the government, David Wilcock. You cannot, you will not, you never will prove Pete Peterson ever worked for the government. We did extensive background checks. He never worked for the government. He never worked for Ronald Reagan. He never worked for the Russian equivalent of NASA. He never won the Order of Lenin Award and all those other things that you claimed. But this is your source. Oh, my source, the bullshitter, said these things, and he's dead. Nobody knows what a dead man told David Wilcock before he died, so you can't check. He could be just making this up. Isn't it convenient that he keeps citing a dead man as sources for all kinds of stuff? A dead man who, by the way, was a con artist and a scammer who wasn't what he claimed to be. He claimed to be an early technology, pioneer in the computer industry. No, he wasn't. We asked around. Nobody knew who he was or ever heard of him. There's no periodicals. There's no articles. There's no mentions of his computer or company in early computing magazines.
viewing only focuses on seeing a particular location, is that everybody who was getting trained in remote viewing started hearing words from, are you ready for it? Angelic extraterrestrial humans.
Oh, now he's connecting remote viewing to his books. Buy my books. It's all connected. Remote viewing.
Really exist, but you can't see them because they can make themselves invisible. But they're around us. Now, in the original remote viewing stuff, these people were apparently given different names, and one of the names was the Midwayers.
I don't know where he's getting that from. I've studied remote viewing pretty extensively. I've never heard that term before, but I could be some obscure reference to something.
They're positive angelic ETs. The negative forces on this planet know all about it. Every president, apparently, since George Washington, has been visited in one way or another by a human being who wasn't really a human, but was actually an extraterrestrial human, an angel.
Every president. Does he have on the record statements from all the living president? Donald Trump was being visited by angelic beings. George H.W. Bush was being visited by angelic beings. Jimmy Carter visited by angelic beings. Barack Obama visited by angelic beings. Where is he getting this? He's just making things up. But hey, don't let things like facts and evidence get in the way, you know. And by the way, we could go contact those people and ask if they were ever in contact with angelic beings and prove he's a liar, or he could show us the sources for these nonsensical, made-up, land of make-believe imaginary statements that he is saying, like every president was visited by angelic extraterrestrial beings.
And Archangel Michael is essentially the boss of all of these ET humans.
No, Archangel Michael is the greatest angel of God. Has nothing to do with aliens, but you're going to mix that in because, you know, people like aliens. Oh, the angels are the aliens.
Now, I started practicing my own version of remote viewing in 1996 after being guided by someone I met from Richard C. Hoagland's discussion forum, an amazing man who was an expert on crop circles, an expert on dreams and synchronicity. His name was Joe Mason, and he had come up with a technique called the dream voice. I was on the phone with him. He was explaining to me how this worked, and he had really amazing results. His dream voice predicted that big quake in LA.
I'd like to see proof of this claim as well.
In the mid-90s.
I tried to look it up. I wasn't able to find anything on this guy or this claim that he's making here.
90s, for example. And very accurately, was very shocking. And so I started to realize, wow,
I have superpowers.
We all have this ability.
We all have superpowers.
All you have to do to practice the dream voice is listen to what's going on in the back of your head when you first wake up in the morning and write it down. Or what's much better, actually, is dictating into a tape recorder.
Oh, we got a tape recorder.
And then,
yeah, that'd be better. Then you can put it into a bunch of nonsensical, disconnected books of gobbledygook, word salad, new age guru nonsense and charge $333 for it 23 plus years later and claim that you got it. Well, which is it? Did he get it from remote viewing, all this stuff, or did he get it from the Archangel Michael? He can't even keep his own bullshit straight.
Have that data. You can read it when you're not in trance and see what it says. And again, if it's the dream voice, if you do this properly, it's cryptic. It doesn't sound like normal speech at all. It's very
I want to see that
very
too.
Strange. And since this is really just the debut
all the
show,
grifters cite dead people for
and
sources.
I've been emotionally recovering, frankly.
It's the dead guy prover maneuver.
Slides. That's okay. I will come back very soon and do more videos.
Oh boy, we're gonna have more
honestly,
material.
Part of it is I'm really, really hoping that you'll buy my product, because I would love not to be in debt anymore, and because I did products like this in the past. Now I've got the tax debt. I got to get rid of it. I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to make sure that I.
Whose fault is it that he has? Is he saying that he has $1.4 million in tax debts, or just general debts? And again, why should his followers have to pay for his financial mistakes of the past? If he didn't listen, you know. The only thing that I can relate it to is my own company. If I make, for example, $10,000, I have to pay a third of that or more to taxes. I have to set that money aside. So how financially irresponsible was this guy to take in $2 million and just spend it all and not set aside the money for Uncle Sam? It's his problem. It's his irresponsibility that caused his financial problems. You pay the taxes on the money coming in, you set it aside, and at the end of the year, whenever it is, April or whatever, you file your taxes and you give the government that which they are owed. And then the next year you do the same thing and you won't rack up hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax debts. Apparently, he didn't do that.
I do this. But anyway, the point is, it took me let's go back to the remote viewing thing. And we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
so
I lost track too, Lucy.
On November 10th, 1996, I began pulling in my own dream voice. This was the morning after I was on the phone with
Shauna is in the live chat, is in the Facebook Live.
8 pages of stuff.
He thinks Edgar Casey reincarnated. He's just a shill making money on lies, like He Who Shall Not Be Named and all them guys from Gaia. I agree. And thanks for the comment. Thanks for being in the Facebook Live, Shauna Reina Bandow. I hope I said that right.
Teresa, a sibling and operative.
He predicted
the Christian.
He predicted.
Well, the Christian Teresa.
He's claiming here that he predicted the heart attack of Mother Teresa. Can we see, some proof that you wrote that prophecy before that happened, or is he just making this up?
That's Mother Teresa. And then 5 days later, she has a heart attack. I was like, whoa. I started having.
Yeah, I'm asking him for proof of his nonsensical statements.
Prophecies. Every single time I sat down, I had a stack of cassette tapes, 90 minutes in length, where I'm dictating.
You're right.
Archangel Michael,
Conspiracy.
he didn't reveal that till 1999. That this
He'll
was
probably
the
be
voice
back.
that was speaking. But
all you have to do is dream.
I'm dictating all this stuff. I've got all these things that I'm writing down. I dictated into the tape recorder. I transcribed it, and I put it on.
You're right,
internet.
John. Yeah.
I had a website in 1999, and I uploaded most of all the Michael readings except for a good part of the middle and end of 1998.
And by the way, in 1998 and 1999, when he was putting this nonsense up, he made zero mention of Archangel Michael. I was able to find one reference to Archangel Michael, but it wasn't about the prophecies he was putting up. He was just putting out prophecies constantly. He never said that they came from Archangel Michael. This is a recent retconning of his history.
From like March 1998 to the end of 98, I think kind of didn't appear on my website. But I have it on tape recordings. I have the original tapes in a vault.
Yeah, and this stuff is so important. It's in a vault. It's in a safe.
Now I realize how heavy this stuff is.
Oh, it's so important.
Just for anybody to be able to come here.
Oh, yeah. And here he's suggesting.
Yeah, I got it in a safe now.
He's got it in a safe so that people can't come into his house and steal the Archangel Michael's revelations that he's putting in books and selling for $333.
I've got printouts of this stuff. I've got multiple vaulted hard drives that have all of these archives on.
What's a vaulted hard drive?
All you have to do is go on archive.org for everything except the 1998 stuff, and you can actually read it from when I posted it in 1999. That's true. You cannot dispute.
I agree, Paul Shields.
That these words were created in the late 1990s. You cannot dispute that.
I'll dispute it.
Why is this so relevant?
It's not relevant.
It's relevant because these words are highly, highly prophetic of everything that is happening now.
No, they're not.
This book is almost entirely.
He's just connecting dots of nonsense together.
Inoculations, everything you can imagine. The idea that there's some kind of big thing that everybody got sick of.
A vaulted hard drive in my Windows ME computer.
Would not give it any energy. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't make a big deal out of it.
Soon, we'll see.
But
Soon.
they were.
I have to make a video about it.
They were going
it's going to be anticlimactic when you see where it is. I mean, it's pretty funny, but
on a massive scale on Earth, and I'm like, whoa, that doesn't sound good at all. But I kind of
he's talking about infected tissue.
So
what?
What has now happened is that I didn't realize I channeled all this stuff in the late 90s. I used the remote viewing protocols. I did it to the best of my ability to be as accurate as possible. And then I start to find out that guys like the one who is going to feel comfortable insulting my appearance in any way that he wants, my hair, my teeth, whatever, go ahead. I like these a lot better than the ones I had that were all damaged. And
I was going to talk about his teeth some more.
So the point is, look, yeah, they're fake, but I don't care. I'm not here to be.
The point is, yeah, my teeth are fake, but I don't care.
Have the perfect hair or the perfect face. I'm here to try to stop you from completing your own suicide. Because suicide is what happens when you don't walk away from these people, when you turn off what's happening, you have a psychopath in your life and you're just going to be passive aggressive.
Wow, he could have killed himself over that situation with this rude woman, but luckily he's trained in psychology, so he's going to tell us all how to deal with it. So the next time that you encounter a rude person, you won't have to commit suicide over it. It's just so ridiculous. This guy is just, I'm really beginning to think that he's dumber than dirt, this guy. And I hate to say that, but this guy's got to be like world-class stupid to believe any of this stuff. Or does he not believe any of it and everything is just part of the grift? I've never been able to decide.
And let them do what they want. And you don't really care because you're just overwhelmed. No, that doesn't work. You authorize your own choices. And so again,
I don't care for the 100th time.
You have to love yourself enough to walk away.
Love yourself. You got to just love yourself. Very important
part of what we're talking about.
And then you'll be fine. You got to love yourself.
We're going through a breakup. We're going through a cosmic.
We're going through a breakup. That's a Freudian slip. Oh, we're going through a breakup and a divorce. No, he's going through a breakup and a divorce.
Of course, the most important thing is to be kind. You don't want to be rude. You don't want to be aggressive, and you don't want to get too angry.
You don't want to be rude. He called her a gorilla and a psychopath. That's rude.
You don't have any control over their behavior. There's an amazing discussion in book 3 where I go through 17 different regions of the brain that are affected by psychopathy.
Oh, now he's going to talk about psychopaths again. He's obsessed with psychopaths. That might be projection, right?
In other words, it has less activity. You see a massive rotting of brain tissue. There's actually a rotting of brain tissue.
I think he might have some rotting of brain tissue somewhere.
In the frontal lobes.
Not to believe any of this shit. He's got to be a little brain damaged. That's my opinion. I'm not a medical expert.
Orbitofrontal cortex. The anterior cingulate cortex.
Yes, I'm going to try to stop you from saving your money. Give it to me.
And I found the documented medical
you might commit suicide if somebody's rude to you.
For you, and then how they're deactivated in the psychopath. The really shocking one out of all of the data, however,
you're right. This is a very good point.
Down the whole thing.
He begins the video announcing, he opens the video that he's depressed, and now he's teaching control of one's emotions to ascend. Yeah, that's the hypocrisy. It's the world of David Wilcock. Welcome to the wacky world of Wilcock.
They don't have the ability.
He's depressed, but he's going to tell you how to deal with emotions.
Right where the mark of the beast is in the Bible. Right in the middle of the forehead. This is one of the areas that shuts down. It's directly related to moral and ethical decision making. It's right here. So we have to rethink everything that we were looking at.
Sounds like somebody worried about how much the divorce is going to cost.
The parts that were not
maybe that $1.4 million debts is divorce stuff. Who knows?
Until I guess earlier this year, because I was still working on book 3 in February.
So he wants his followers to pay for his failings to pay his taxes, apparently, or allegedly, and for his failings in his marriage, because I'm sure he's going to have to pay a hefty amount to his ex-wife in money, because she's entitled to like half, I guess, of all the money they took in, and that was a lot. It was millions of dollars that he took in while he was married to her. So I think she might be entitled to half of that money. So he's got to come up with that plus the tax money.
In March and April. Michael is telling us that the
David Welfare
nuclear war. They're going to prevent the planet from being literally incinerated, but they allowed this COVID stuff to happen.
They're going to, don't worry, we're not going to get incinerated.
There's a lot of people who have been codependently entangled with the deep state. And if you're involved with a psychopath, you might go out there and fight their battles for them. Because if you don't, then
I don't know, a couple of years, I think, MK Ultra.
So
to a Kung Fu master girl
you tacitly endorse the
who got her Kung Fu master belts from her ex-husband before him.
You are rescuing your perpetrator by doing what they want. You're rescuing them by going out there and enforcing their mandate. And that's not really a smart thing to do. Let's just be honest. It's not smart.
I want to take life advice from this guy.
Because the more that you do, the more they will perpetrate against others.
I don't want to attack him specifically for this, but isn't it interesting that guys that lives are a mess are going to go on the internet and give advice? Like, I mean, I'm doing pretty good, and I wouldn't go on the internet and give people life advice, right? He has failed at his marriage. He failed at hover cars. He failed to be an Edgar Casey reincarnated. He failed with his secret space program insiders that then admitted in court that they'd never been to space. He failed with Pete Peterson. He failed to pay his taxes, but he's going to give us all advice. This makes a lot of sense.
The more trouble you have,
why would I listen to this guy?
Into an abyss, and there's really no way out. So
it could be, Lucy.
It's all about
I think it's
learning to love yourself.
Oh, you gotta love yourself.
That when somebody comes by who hangs out all this bait for you,
maybe he's got a good memory.
Maybe they look really good,
Eisen.
like the woman at the water fountain. She was very, very physically attractive.
The woman at the fountain was hot.
In possible terms, I would say she was probably a 9.
And was trying to bang him
She
too.
was very attractive. She had a very nice sports car. She was clearly some wealthy elite woman. And she's just out there in her Audi. Yeah, I shouldn't have said that, but yeah, okay. It was an Audi. So she's out there in her Audi yelling at people.
I want to interview with this woman.
All dressed
you got to
up,
find
all
her.
hot. And you know what? Nobody was buying into it.
We need a hot, rich chick with an Audi
thing,
in his home state.
I probably shouldn't tell you guys this. Do you want to hear something really crazy?
Now he's going to claim that the woman was trying to bang him while she was being rude, and it was such a traumatic experience.
Happened, folks,
she was trying to bang him.
Sexually, she actually said, "Do you want to fill my jugs?" And she does this. And that's when I said, "You are very strange." And that's
you want to feel my jugs?
Literally trying to seduce me right after she was yelling at me. She pushed out her tits. She does this whole, looks at him and looks at me and says, "Do you want to fill my jugs?" I'm like, what? I mean, at that point, like, what do you say? You know, do you go into an argument? Do you laugh? You know, do you fight back? Do you defend yourself? What are you going to do? And I decided what I'm going to do is, "You are very strange," and then walk away. And I said, "I'm going to give you all the space you need because you obviously don't want to talk to anybody."
This is so nonsensical. So earlier he was saying what a traumatic experience this was. If you were at a natural spring and everybody was filling up jugs and a girl looked at you and put her chest out and joked like, "Do you want to help me fill my jugs?" you would laugh. It would not be a traumatic experience. I would laugh. I would think that's a good joke, right? But earlier he was saying that this was like one of the most traumatic experiences of his life. Like he can't even keep the lies straight. This is the sign of pathology, of a pathological liar. He's just making things up. He's not looking real good either, this guy.
Okay, well, you know, I think this woman probably hates people in the country. She's probably been taught that by the media.
Oh, she hates him. She didn't like him because he was a Trump supporter
of someone. I'm not going to say the name right now. You know what I'm talking about.
Never happened.
Yeah, we are. And that's okay. And it's not like we're all going to hurt somebody either. It's not like she's going to be dragged off into the woods and hurt by anybody. But if you act like you're going to be, and then you begin aggressively attacking people, yeah, people are going to get mad. And that's why I wanted to make sure this other guy didn't hurt her, because she was just in a complete meltdown. Very, very, very unsafe.
She could have stabbed him, friends.
If you go out there and you bond with somebody who is not really healthy but is a psychopath, they're just going to keep getting you to bend your morals more and more. They're going to see how far can they push you.
Yeah, maybe he's on the spectrum. Who knows?
I love the fact that you are gay. I love it. I love that you're gay, man. Will you keep doing more stuff for me? Will you keep killing people for me? Will you keep hurting people for me? Will you keep insulting people for me?
What is he talking about?
If I love that you're gay, will you do that for me? If I love how much you're gay.
What is this? This is crazy.
No, the answer is no. And so there's this very, very difficult breakup.
He loves how much we're gay.
People fall in love with their abuser. People fall in love with
very difficult breakup.
You vote for a politician because you love the politician. You love this person.
No, sometimes you vote for a politician because he's the lesser of two criminals.
That if this particular individual was to ever be reinstalled in office, that the whole world is over.
I think you're right, Zippo. Fantastic.
And they're just willing to go deeper and deeper.
Thanks for being a member.
More and more crazy, crazy stuff. So now you're seeing it all.
This tangent came out of nowhere. Right? It was so traumatic, but she was trying to bang him.
Obvious to see what's going on. They're coming.
She was sexually coming on to him. Sexually, she was coming on to him. Sexually.
And then the question is, do you? Let's say you're in the category where you've dehumanized this individual. Are you excited about what's happening?
I really am gay, yeah.
Are you getting off on this? Are you enjoying this? Are you hoping that this will be enough to finally take care of it. No, what's happening is the people you love have gotten themselves in so much trouble. There is absolutely no way out.
Amy.
There is absolutely no way out.
You could have burnt that money
we
and
as a
got more
planet are
out
going
of
to
it.
take the higher road and not descend into civilization-ending barbarism.
I would
Instead,
like that, MK.
is we're going to acknowledge that, yeah, you know what? Psychopaths have all these brain abnormalities. And the one really disturbing thing is that there's this part of the brain called the striatum, which is near the corpus callosum in the middle between the two hemispheres.
More psychopath talk. Psychopaths love it when people are in pain.
The striatum is what feels pleasure. It's one of the centers of the brain that activates when we feel pleasure. A normal person will not feel pleasure when they see someone else getting hurt. But in the psychopath, if you measure their brain, you see.
I agree. That
no
was a terrible effort.
There's no electrical activity up here. The hippocampus is shut down. The insula is shut down. You got some.
He saw a hot chick at the water hole.
Down. But the striatum lights up. The pleasure center lights up when they see people being hurt. They get off on it, and we can medically.
She's not going to do that. I mean, I can email her.
Well, nobody's going to teach you about this because nobody wants to have the game exposed. Psychopaths don't want to be exposed. That's the one thing they hate the most is exposure.
They hate
exposure. So when you understand what we're facing, they're really essentially medically incapable of getting better. That's a big, big part of psychopathy. They would need an.
That's not true. That is not true. Read the research. There are treatments available for all mental problems. There's treatments available, including for people with psychopathic tendencies or sociopathic tendencies or narcissistic tendencies. There's counseling and more.
Time without exposure to any of the things that reactivate their trauma. They basically need like an extended nature.
99% of the people he's talked about are psychopaths. Pete Peterson apparently was cool though.
It may happen in this lifetime. It may happen in future incarnations, but we all end up returning to oneness.
He filled a jug.
We all end up reunifying with the creator. And most of these people are trapped in a cult system.
Could be Lucy Day. Who knows? We'll try. So many people want me to that I'll at least email. I'll try to contact her.
Some of the whistleblowers have said that the people in this group don't even want to be in it. They would love to get out.
Oh, now he's got whistleblowers again.
They would love to.
Which whistleblowers? The fake government insider, Emery Smith, the fake doctor that, you know, what did he autopsy 3,000 alien bodies, but then later you had to pull that back to tissue samples somehow? Which whistleblower, which insider? The fake Pete Peterson that never worked for Ronald Reagan, like you said, the fake secret space program insider that made up all his stories and admitted under oath he's never been to space. Which one of your insiders told you this nonsense? Because all your other insiders turned out to be completely and totally fake. But now we're supposed to trust you. You got new insiders, including angels.
Well, there are higher angelic forces out there in the world that are not going to allow them to destroy the planet. That's not what this is for. Their purpose on Earth was to expose themselves and awaken the planet. We are supposed to be in this situation
Gazoo blowers.
Where it looks absolutely hopeless, where it looks like there's no way out. There's nothing we can do. The part that you may not be seeing is that these guys have already getting arrested.
Oh, that's interesting, Sandra. Send me a link in email.
They're resigning, stepping down left and right. Now we've got a new Speaker of the House.
He's saying that all of the deep state members are getting arrested and resigning. Who? He's just making things up.
There's all kinds of political turmoil, upheaval going on all over the world. And I don't think most people really understand the alliance. It never even occurred to them, well, wait a minute.
The alliance doesn't exist. It's a construct of Q nonsense in his own imagination.
And what was the U.S. military really doing? The U.S. military and other militaries like it, in the past, I'm not going to talk about now, but they were actually constantly going through regime change. The whole entire world.
Now he's a geopolitical expert as well. Friends, we are an hour and 33 minutes into this video. But we are 3 hours into our broadcast. I believe that we're going to table this here. But everybody make careful note, 1 hour, 33 minutes, 18 seconds. We'll go through the rest of it another time. We're not going to make it through the whole thing unless we want to be here for 7 hours. Another hour to go. But we've done more than our due diligence because I only really wanted to make it through half of this nonsensical rambling. I guess the best thing I could do is wrap things up like this. If you really want angelic information, read the Bible. They're free. You can go to the Gideon Society and get a Bible for free, or you could just use an online Bible. You can go to several different websites that are biblical databases, and you can ask to see every mention of angels in the Bible, and you'll get all the biblical verses related to angels. You don't need to pay this man $333. And let's be very clear, he's already provided completely and totally wrong information in book 1. He's got 6 more books full of nonsense. How wrong are those? These are the nonsensical ramblings of a man who has claimed at various times to be Edgar Cayce reincarnated, Earth's greatest prophet, Earth's greatest psychic. He claims to be that all of this information is coming to him from the Archangel Michael. But he also claims that the Archangel Michael told him to take baths in his own piss to get telekinetic superpowers. You know, telekinesis, like Jean Grey from the X-Men. He claimed that he had telekinesis. This man claimed that he had superpowers. Can we see you move some shit with your mind? Why are you rambling for an hour or more about some rude woman that was totally rude to you, and it was such a traumatic experience, and she could have stabbed you, but she was trying to bang you at the same time? This man is ridiculous, and he thinks that everybody forgot. He was wrong about the hover cars. He was wrong about Stavati Aerospace. He was wrong about a secret space program, J.O., that was lying to everybody for 8 years. He was wrong about Pete Peterson. He was wrong about Emery Smith. He was wrong about the rainbow light bodies. He was wrong about being Edgar Cayce reincarnated. He was wrong about what would happen in the year 2000. He was wrong about what would happen in the year 2012. He's just wrong. Why would an angel go to a guy who's been making fake prophecies, none of which have come to fruition or come to pass for 20 plus years? Why would the Archangel Michael tell him to take baths in his own piss? Right? Go talk to a reverend or a priest or a theologian and ask them, I mean, what would happen? Would you think that an angel would come to people and tell them to take baths in their own urine in order to get superpowers? And when he's done laughing, then ask him this question. If somebody truly was in telepathic or whatever communication with an angel or an archangel, would God and the archangels and the angels be okay with him taking that secret or sacred information that was being shared to him by God's greatest angel, the Archangel Michael, and then not give it away, but charge $333 for it? This man is a false prophet. And remember, according to the test of the prophet, you only have to be wrong one time, and then you are not in communication with God. You are not in communication with angelic beings or higher beings. You are a deceiver, a false prophet, if you fail the test of the prophet. Listen to that litany of things I've said he's been wrong about. This man has been wrong about everything. An archangel is not helping a false prophet profit from secret or sacred angelic revelations. That's it. That's all I have to say about this situation. He is a deceiver, a false prophet. He is not of God. He is not of angels. If anything, he is of demonic trickster. He is communicating. If he's communicating with any entities, they are likely demonic forces disguising themselves, perhaps, or deceiving him into believing that they are of an angelic nature. I don't believe that angels would speak to him and then be okay with him selling whatever they're telling him for $333. I'm entitled to my beliefs. The scriptures are very clear. Look up Test of a Prophet. If the prophet is wrong one time, he is not of God, and he is not of of angels. He is of demonic forces, a deceiver, a false prophet. David Wilcock is not a prophet. He is a false prophet. And this can be proven time and time and time again. Before 2012, he was collecting money hand over fist, telling everybody about the coming ascension and how we were all going to get rainbow light bodies and we were all going to be able to telepathically communicate and levitate. Actually, I think that I have some of his previous prophecies here. I'm sure that I have some of his previous prophecies here. And this, my friends, more than anything, the test of a prophet proves that David Wilcock is a deceiver. He is not channeling information from angelic sources. He could not be. There is also other scriptural evidence to support that David Wilcock is a false prophet. And that evidence is that God or his angels would not give false information to one of their prophets. If the information is inaccurate, according to scripture, it is not of God. So where is he getting this from? Is he getting it from, is he just making it up? Is he getting it from demonic forces? I don't know what I believe, or I think I might know where he's getting this stuff from. I think I found David Wilcock's source of all this information.
Wow, the land of make-believe.
That's right. It's from the land of make-believe. A prophet is never wrong because a prophet is a direct conduit, some believe, to the will and voice of God. Therefore, David Wilcock cannot be a prophet because his information is so piss poor and wrong. Remember, according to the scriptural test of a prophet, you only have to be wrong once, and then you're a false prophet. How many times has David Wilcock been wrong? He's not in communication with angels. And while I can't 100% prove that, I can show you the scriptural, I can show you in the Bible where he fails to meet the test of a prophet. Interestingly, David Wilcock never claimed in 1999 when he was writing all this stuff down that it came from the Archangel Michael. These are very recent claims that he has somehow come up with that claim. And he's claiming that all of this stuff he wrote down you didn't know in 1999. The angel didn't tell you who he was until 23 years later or more. And isn't it convenient that he's in such desperate need of money and suddenly he's channeling the Archangel Michael, who again told him to take baths in his own urine in order to get superpowers? You can't make this stuff up. And listen, I give you my word here. I thought a lot about this. If David Wilcock had never failed at any of these prophecies or been grifting on rainbow light bodies or been grifting off of secret space fake stories or been grifting off of the year 2000 prophecies and revelations or been grifting off of free energy and hover cars, if he was a brand new character in conspiracy land and said, I'm channeling the Archangel Michael, well, then I would evaluate his claims. But when we see this decades-long history of deception, we can be pretty clear that this is just another money-grabbing deception in a decades-long history of money-grabbing, false prophecies. Yeah, so I thought I'm sure that I have somewhere a video of some of David Wilcock's previous. We'll do it on the next one when we cover the next hour, which probably won't be tomorrow. We're going to skip a day because I can only take so much of this guy before I want to punch my computer. But, after a while, I just, it's just too much. It's just too much bull, right? At some point you go, my God. So we'll be going over the other hour when we get a chance, probably sometime before the end of the week. Let me check here. I'm still looking for this prophecies. I had one just for his prophecies. I might have deleted it from my bumpers. We've used it before. But I'll be sure to locate it before the next broadcast, I suppose. Let me see. Maybe I have one more place to look for it. So questions or comments for me, put them in all capital letters. I'll take a few questions and comments before we bounce on out of here. We're approaching 3.5 hours. We're approaching David Wilcock stream lengths here. That I can't blame him for. Sometimes you think you're going to cover something in an hour, and then you get into it, right? And it gets much, much, much longer. But it is what it is. David Wilcock is out here begging everybody for $333 so that he can pay taxes and bills that he apparently never paid. So David Wilcock expects you, his followers, to make up for his financial problems, which, you know, hey, I have empathy and sympathy for anybody that has financial problems, but David Wilcock created his problems. Well, I definitely have, I have his hover car plans here, but that's not the prophecies, right? It's definitely not the prophecies. Anyway, in 2012, he claimed that we're all going to have rainbow bodies and superpowers, and none of the things that he predicted would happen in 2012 happened. Therefore, he doesn't pass the test of a prophet. He is a deceiver or a false prophet. And there's many false prophets out there in the New Age community. They pretend that they're in contact with, you know, divine or angelic sources. Who knows, right? There's been many of these people who come, you know, into the public limelight claiming to have divine or sacred knowledge. And I'm here to tell you, I really don't think any angel or anybody, any higher being, God, whatever you want to, what term you want to put on it, I just don't believe that anybody like that would give their secret or sacred knowledge to somebody like David Wilcock and then tell him to sell it for $333. That alone really should be enough for people to recognize and understand that David Wilcock is not a prophet. He is a deceiving false prophet that is only interested in your money. It's very, very clear. So comments or questions for me? If we get rainbow bodies, what would we eat or poo? Yeah, I don't know. Yes, Zippo says, so Stephen, you're saying that rainbow people of today don't have superpowers. No, they don't have superpowers. Mystic Virus says, it's okay, Stephen. Look at it this way. You're not wearing a straitjacket yet, but we will stay tuned. Thank you, Mystic Virtue, for giving me a laugh. Sometimes you got to laugh just to keep yourself from crying, right? You definitely got to laugh just to keep yourself from crying. They want to believe. That's what the problem is. And he's preying on vulnerable people. Look at how his whole presentation is like, the cabal is all getting arrested and great things are coming and happening. And later in this, he says that all of these changes, rapid earth changes and the end of the cabal and all this stuff is going to come in the next 2 weeks when he's pushing his book, right? B. Baker says David Wilcock wants a rainbow body so he can finally come out. Allegedly. Yes, allegedly. Absolutely allegedly. Yeah. Yeah. Can we start a David Wilcock filling jugs meme? Yeah, absolutely. Actually, we should find a picture of a girl with the biggest breasts that we can and just title it and put David Wilcock next to her and put it, want to fill my jugs. Yeah. So any more questions or comments from me? Yeah, he does talk about homosexuality a lot, says Lucy Day. I absolutely agree. Yeah. You think at David's low point in his career that he'd ever come on the show? Have you reached out to him for an interview? No, he's not going to come here. He's not going to come here. I have less than 10,000 subscribers. Hopefully not for long. I hope we pass that threshold soon. Something's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. Yeah, something always happens. And then he'll just find something to make an excuse and claim that his prophecy was correct somehow. I don't believe it. I think his prophecies are bull. He's been wrong about everything. A Buddhist mystical belief. The rainbow light bodies is a Buddhist mystical belief. They believe that some of their greatest monks can get a rainbow light body and superpowers, essentially, if they become enlightened enough. And that's kind of like a lesser known, more esoteric teaching of Buddhism, I believe, but I'm no expert. Somebody pointed that out. Get my coffee on. Yeah, it's actually freezing in here. I gotta bounce on out of here before I freeze to death. I don't know how cold it is outside, but for those unaware, I have low blood pressure. I'm somewhat anemic. I don't want to start complaining like David Wilcock, but I am cold easily. I don't know. It's probably not even that cold outside. It's 52 out. It's not that cold out, but I'm in an unheated room in our home here. So I'm going to go somewhere where it is heated. Yeah. So we're going to follow up on this next hour. I'm going to find that clip of him making predictions, and I'm going to find the biblical scripture that I'm going to find the religious teachings that prove this test of a prophet situation with David Wilcock, and we'll talk about that. Yeah. So we have done more than our due diligence tonight, friends, and we're going to skip my own begging bumpers. I decided I'm not going to play them every day because again, that's a little repetitive, right? And besides, everybody jumps off when I play those, and the show's all but over. So we'll have to save those for another time. So before anybody spends any money on David Wilcock's latest, greatest offering, I would highly suggest that you look into how unhappy so many people were with his previous offerings, or how wrong he was with all the previous courses. It's literal gobbledygook, word salad, new age guru nonsense, connecting all these dots. Now it's getting ridiculous. Now there's aliens coming here to make crop circles to confirm the information in his books, which he claims come from the Archangel Michael, who's telling him to take baths in his own piss, are accurate. Aliens are coming here making crop circles so that he could sell more books. Not ridiculous at all. Well, friends, that's all I got for you. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.